Imagine being a streamer who only streams World of Warcraft. That would take a level of idiocy that it would be unfathomable. Those people are losers and absolute idiots. Today, thank the high heavens, we have a man who has ascended that level of stupidity. A man who has been brave enough to step out of the box of World of Warcraft. A legend. The king of Spurgs. Quin69, the man who one time did so much DPS that it appeared to be zero. Quin, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, welcome to the show, man.
It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, this is the second time, right? I was on Allcraft, a while ago.
Wait, were you on 2 episodes back in the day? This might be the 3rd time.
I said 1 time. I was 1 time. This is 2 time.
Oh, okay. Two time. Quin69.
Hodded was here as well. Your boy Hodded was here as well.
Yeah.
It was a different time back then. I remember. Didn't we have to start the show really early in the morning?
It was awful. The timing. It was the worst time ever. I had to stay up late, and I was like dying. And that was awful.
What time is it for you right now?
It's 8 in the morning. This is pretty much perfect. Like this is like around.
Wait, you wake up at 8 in the morning?
No. I wake up at midnight.
Wow.
That's I wake up at midnight. Start my stream at 2 a.m.
I like it. That's good.
It's very efficient, man. No one to distract you. You can just pop off, do whatever.
I used to do the same thing. The only problem is there's not a lot of fast food places open whenever it's really late, and there's just like you're just sitting there. You got nothing to do.
I usually wake up right when Asmongold ends his stream.
That's crazy how convenient that is.
It's just this fucking weird thing. It's this coincidence. It's called the natural circadian rhythm of course. Luigi. Yeah, but last time we had you on the show, I'm pretty sure that it was at least around the time that you were actually competing in the MDI. And now all of a sudden Torghast is out. The game looks very different. I kind of want to jump in that time machine though and talk about everything that's happened with you as well. Because I know you went from competing to not really playing that much to then playing Classic WoW in the best guild that's ever existed of all time, to not really playing again, to now being interested in Torghast. So what's really gone on with you and WoW over the past year or so?
It's pretty simple, really. Like, okay, so I started playing BFA, right? Because I was going ham in Legion, and I really love Legion. And then I started playing BFA, and then BFA was just dog shit, really. It was just awful.
Yes.
So I quit. I just quit because I just was not enjoying it. I was like logging in the morning and I was like, what am I even doing here? I think I killed Gahoon on Mythic. Famed Slayer of Gahoon, by the way. And then after that, it was just, I just really didn't even feel like logging into the game. That's to the point, even halfway through the prog, I didn't even feel like playing WoW. I just kind of felt like I had
that early in the expansion?
Yeah, that early. Jeez. Honestly, it was like, just getting out of bed in the morning to like raid, I would sit there thinking like, I have to get up and raid and I have to play WoW. Like, it would just be like this. It was like having a job.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, like, what do you think the big difference was in like the way that you played it in Legion versus BFA? Like, what was the difference for you?
Well, Legion, it was just super exciting. That's the thing, because I had never raided before. So joining a raid guild and like, because I thought basically PvE was for noobs and like only people did PvE because they weren't good enough to compete in PvP. Basically, it was a pretty juvenile thought process, right? I just never really tried like actual Mythic raiding. Anyway, I kind of uncovered that, and then Mythic Plus as well. Like they just put Mythic Plus out in Legion, and I was just loving it. Like we were just pushing the highest keys on the server and stuff, and really just being degenerates and just farming like more souls 50 times for artifact power, all that. I don't know. I was just the whole time I had something to do. I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this. And BFA, it was like, no, it was just I don't know what it was necessarily about the expansion, but it was just I just did not like it.
I kind of want to dive in on Mythic Plus a little bit too. Obviously, you played keys more than me or Asmin, and it's good that you got out when you did with BFA. As you can see, it's taken its toll on pretty much everyone who continued to play. All of us are balding now. Your hairline still looks fine, so I definitely do think you made the right decision. But what actually changed with Mythic Plus? Because like you said, you were pushing crazy high keys. You literally were competing. I got to cast over you, and then all of a sudden, I don't think I've seen you do a key at all, and the system is relatively the same as it was in that iteration of Legion.
I don't know, man. It kind of felt it was new and fresh. Like like the early keys when they first came out and pushing them was like no one had ever like we're going for like, oh yeah, let's go for like the first people to push like a 20 key or something, right? And we'd be sitting there like banging our face against the wall trying to do this, and like the whole rated IO score memes when everyone really cared about it. It was kind of because so many people cared about it and so many people were trying hard that made it kind of exciting. And BFA, it was kind of like I didn't do M plus initially to get geared, but once I got geared and I had my rated IO score, it was just like I don't know. It wasn't really. I just didn't have that motivation. It's really hard to explain the lack of motivation. It's just I guess there wasn't enough change.
Yeah,
Because I don't know how you get bored of.
Do you
things,
feel like
but
your
it just wasn't
class?
enough.
Do you feel like your class played a role in it too? Like the way that your class played?
Oh yeah, they made Rets like a lot more brain dead compared to be honest, you might be actually right. Like legendaries and like just being able to item swap and stuff like that killed things, and then just losing two of your main abilities as a Red Paladin was also kind of shitty. But I don't know if it was necessarily that.
It's I mean, at least from my take, you kind of walk in and yeah, there are new dungeons, but the keys all feel exactly the same with the affixes. The rewards are unexciting, and a lot of people felt like their classes were overall in a worse spot. So it's kind of tricky to get people excited for it. I kind of understand the lack of motivation.
GCD change, bro.
It just sucks.
That was awful. Fuck that, man.
It's like at the end of the day, I was telling people about this before, is that yes, the GCD change, like I understand Blizzard's goal with it, and like I'm sure we all can see what Blizzard's goal is, but at the end of the day, it doesn't feel good. It just makes the classes less fun to play and shittier to play.
Everything feels way less. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like everything feels slower and less responsive, and you just can't like this. It feels like the skill. I get there's arguments like, oh, you just need to plan out your globals better and all this, but honestly, like pressing wings and just watching your guy like go like this, and then in PvP, people can like react to that, whereas before you could generally get 1 to 2 GCDs out before they could like press a defensive if they're like bad, and you could just kill people like that. Now it's like this big obvious telegraphed thing, which I don't know. Just I feel like the game's just slowed down and it just feels worse in general.
Well,
with that whole GCD change.
How do you feel like things have changed? Because you've obviously played the Shadowlands beta. Do you feel like it's the same in Shadowlands as BFA, or do you feel like it's a little bit closer to Legion?
It's way closer to Legion, right?
Really?
In terms of in terms of the skills that are available to my class, like having Wake of Ashes baseline, having Hammer of Wrath baseline, having like all of these things that we used to have baseline, outside of the GCD change. It's basically like a mix between like it's like a Legion and a Catapally, Cataclysm Paladin.
Yeah.
Put together, and honestly, Catapally was like one of the best paladins in the game. Like I don't know if you ever messed with a Cataclysm Red Paladin. They had like infinite healing, and it was some of the best. I mean, it was some of the glory days. That's when I first started playing Red, and I absolutely loved it.
I feel like a lot of people
just
like.
Well,
this is like back whenever you had PvE gear in PvP too. I think that also like probably added another like level of dynamicness because you had like more gear choices and stuff like that. Whereas like in Legion you didn't have any, and even in BFA now it just feels like it's very, very cookie cutter.
I kind of always thought Ret sucked. I guess Wrath Ret was kind of cool too. I'll give Ret Wrath for sure. But I'm kind of curious before we really dive in to everything with Torghast, because I've been watching you play Torghast literally all day, Quinn. And before we talk about some of the other things that we have seen in Shadowlands, I do want to ask, what would you want to see happen to Mythic Plus in particular to actually get you back in it? Would it be something with the affixes? Do you feel like some of those class changes that you did already mention might be enough to get you back into it? Or do you think you could just never see yourself getting back into the place that you were?
It's really simple. Like that, I know how to get me back at M plus like instantly. Like all they need to do is get the rated.io score, right? So you have the rating of like, whatever key. So like you do a 15 key. It's worth like 200 points, and it adds up, and you get the score, and then there's rankings, and there's ratings, and then, there's seasons, and at the end of the season, depending on your ranking, you'll get, like, different titles.
And put it in game.
Basically, like, in-game with actual in-game rewards.
Fuck yeah, dude.
So, like, that would be badass. I mean, if there was a mount, bro, like, if there was a mount for getting, like, 3,000 rated IO score, say, at the end of the season, like, would you be, like, doing M plus a ton?
Fuck yeah. Like, I mean, because you need the rewards to get people to go after stuff. Like, right now, 15s are super easy, and you just basically get your 15 done, and that's it. and there's no reason to go past 15s at all. I feel like for like more hardcore players, there's almost no incentive besides just bragging rights, which I don't really think is enough nowadays.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's why I kind of got bored of it in BFA, because people in Legion, people really cared about the Raider IO score, and then in BFA it was like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like Mythic kills, who cares?
All right, we're good. All right, go ahead.
But yeah, I don't know. I was trying to explain why it's some sort of weird. That I don't understand the psychology behind it. But when everyone else doesn't care about something, I start to care about it less as well. And I don't know that I'm just like some sort of cuck.
It's like top down, I think. You know, it's like kind of if you feel like you're kind of part of something and everybody's running keys all the time, you just feel cooler about running keys because that's what everybody else is doing. But whenever it's like, yeah, me and my other 4 nerds, we're going to go for the 21 today. Oh, dude. And it's like, we're going to get the same gear as a 15. It just, I don't know. It just, who gives a fuck, man? At the end of the day, who gives a fuck?
I mean, look at Classic, too. I mean, with Classic, when... I know Quin and I were playing in 7. You were playing in Special Olympus or whatever your guild was called, Asmon. And it was one of those things where the game really isn't that... There's not that much going on at some points. It is a fantastic game, but at some points there's not that much going on. But when you have a group of people that you're playing with, go figure, WoW's pretty fucking fun. So I think that's part of it. And also when you're looking at stuff from a competitive perspective, what's the point of competing against people who you don't even think could like drink water and walk at the same time, right? It's not really fun to compete against nothing. One other idea that I've heard, Quin, and I'm kind of curious how you feel about this. This is just one of the other ideas I've heard a lot of Mythic Plus people being thrown around because I like the idea of having a ladder a lot. Some people have been talking about the idea of like war games, like actually having dungeon war games type style where you could actually compete against another group. Do you think that that's something that's necessary, or do you think that that's something that's just kind of destined to fail with how dungeons are set up?
What do you do? Like, what's the point of it?
People want to create? Yeah, that's what people have been asking for. Like for like a this is just something that I actually heard. I was doing like a kind of like a interview with somebody who does a bunch of dungeons, and they were talking about like actually trying to replicate stuff with the MDI so you could actually compete against another dungeon team and like queue into them and then have a ladder there.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool for the really competitive end of things, but I mean I don't know. I could see like fucking Zach doing like a tournament for that. Like, I could see people doing community-based stuff, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'd engage with a system like that all the time. If you could just have it in, I'd have it in for sure. But,
yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I think it would be a really cool system, but yeah, I don't see any other people that would want to use it besides just the tournament organizers and people that are running events. Like outside of like 2 groups of people like going out of their way to do a dungeon against each other, I don't know. Just doesn't seem that plausible.
So I kind of did a little thing there where I set myself up to say something, and now I'm kind of nervous to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel the same way, and I kind of feel like that shows a flaw in the MDI format, right? If you could actually add a way to do MDI stuff in the game, because I agree, I would want it to be a war game feature so people could do tournaments, right? Which is fun, but at the same time, I think if the current competitive format for MDI is something where you have 3 super nerds in a call right now, and you're like, yeah, I guess it would be kind of fun. Like that inherently makes something that's a little bit less exciting to watch, inherently makes something that you're not going to have a huge player base like there initially was trying to filter into it. And I think that making the MDI a little bit spicier.
Here's what the MDI is like, in my opinion, is you ever watch like a NASCAR race, and like imagine you have to go through 10 laps of the NASCAR race, and then you have 2 cars and one of them crashes on lap 3. Imagine how boring watching the next 4 laps or 6 laps is going to be. Because 90% of the time, you know who's going to win in the MDI like 10 minutes into the game, right? Because they're just so far ahead. And I think like at the point where you kind of can predict the winner, it ruins the excitement of the tournament. It's like if you already knew who was going to win, who cares how it really plays out? And I think that's a big problem with the MDI too. I don't even know how they fixed that, but that's my opinion.
That is one of the things where you look at a lot of the esports that have existed for a long time, and what is the reason that they've existed for such a long time? There's always a way to come back, right? Whether it's a MOBA where you can capture certain objectives and all of a sudden you're able to win a team fight, and that snowballs, and in the final hour you're able to come back for any of you here. Storm, watch yourself.
Like, I mean, I think really it's just people aren't refined enough. If the teams aren't close, like, doesn't it just mean this is a lack of refinement? There's like one clearly better team than everyone else, and that means there's not enough competitors like who are actually good.
Well, I think that part of the reason that it's not as there aren't as many competitors jumping in is it's less exciting too. But I mean that's not true anymore. I'll give credit where credit's due. Like the prize pool's much bigger this year than it was before.
What was it last year?
Exactly what it was. I forget what it was last year, but there was obviously the whole thing that happened with the prize pool BlizzCon, like which is kind of what everybody thought about. But I'm pretty sure this year, I'm going to double check it right now because I don't want to say anything wrong. I'm going to pull up
if you can't live off it without like, you know, supplementing it via streaming and stuff, if you can't live off it and be like a professional MDI player, then it's like, I don't think it's big
It's
enough.
also like maybe the first place people can live off of it, off of just tournament winnings, but everybody else who doesn't get first place isn't going to win off of it or live off of it. And I think that's really kind of the problem. I mean, you look at a lot of the main people that are coming out ahead in these tournaments, it's mostly method teams. So I think that's also a certain amount of disinterest that people have whenever they already know, okay, well, this team usually wins like 90% of the time. It just kind of makes the tournament and the competition kind of boring. And it's nothing against method. They're so good that they're winning all the time, but it's something that's good for them and they earned that, but it's simultaneously not really good for the scene as a whole.
I mean, they also have historically had a lot of teams as well, which isn't necessarily not going to, but like there were multiple like it would be a different team winning a lot of the time. And
how are they allowed to do that? Like, how are they allowed to have like? Because I saw, was it BlizzCon? There were like method versus method, and there was another. It was like 3 method teams. Like, what is if you just have every single team as a method team? Like, is there a limit of how many method teams can enter into a tournament? Like,
so I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that there is a limit, but they just have the maximum. Is what I'm pretty sure happened. I mean, no other org's doing it, right?
Yeah.
It does happen a lot though in esports where you have 2 teams, maybe like it would be like if the esports team was called Organization X, it would be like Organization X blue and Organization X like white. That happens a lot, but usually they're within different regions. And usually there are different caps based off of region. Like maybe you can have 2 NA teams and like 1 European team or something like that. But yeah, I do want to find this prize pool thing because I'm pretty sure the prize pool is like $250,000 just for the season itself this time around.
It's just not enough money, especially if you compare it. Like, because what I'm really saying is that WoW, the winnings in WoW and the clout that you get off of being good at WoW, it just doesn't matter anymore. Like, that's really what it is. It's like, if like you're an esports player and you're looking at a game to be good at, I don't know, do you want to go with Valorant? Do you want to go with Call of Duty? Do you want to go with Counter-Strike? Or do you want to play WoW? I mean, it's just not a very good position to be in.
Well, I mean, I will also say with that take, there are always those moments where, you know, what's that one dude's name? Sinatra, right? Yeah. Didn't Sinatra play CS? Then he goes to Overwatch, wins Overwatch, and now he's saying he's going to go to Valorant, right? I mean, if you're that good of a player that you can switch games, the most lucrative thing that you can do is every time Fortnite comes out, you switch to Fortnite.
Yeah, but it's no secret that Overwatch League is declining a lot, and Valorant has gained a lot of attention. So it doesn't really surprise me that somebody who's looking to boost their name and win as much money as they can and be as on the most competitive platform possible is going to go and try to play a game that's, you know, the most popular.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, is like eventually that most likely will happen to Valorant too. I mean, there's a chance that it doesn't, and then he'll go somewhere else, right? I mean,
there's always gonna be a #1 game, Bridge.
Yeah.
To hope to. You know?
Imagine being able to hop on each one, though. I mean, that is
providing it stays as FPS though, because I feel like you couldn't go from FPS to MMO. With MMOs.
Well, you can't go from MMO to FPS. I'll tell you from personal experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
but dude, I actually tried it myself. It's not a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different skill set. Okay, it requires more of a mental thing. The MMO, you know, the RPG gamers. That's you know, people who play FPS games. A bunch of
So we're smart.
How about
which is what girls like?
Of course, absolutely. What about Torghast in terms of a competitive tournament style? Quinn, what do you think the future of that is? Possible or not?
I don't think it could ever be an esport. I think trying to make it an esport would kill it because you would then have to try and balance everything, and I think that's bad, right? Like, I think balancing is like to a certain extent is good, but then if you overbalance it and you go crazy trying to make it into an esport, then all the stuff, all the wacky stuff, it has to get completely killed, and you can't do all the really stupid stuff.
Do you think it'd be possible with seeded runs, or even not even then?
Would you seeded runs in like what speed runs,
Well,
like time trial, and everyone is the same thing?
Every single person has the exact same mob set, the exact same anima powers, everything.
That's not exciting.
It's not.
Sorry.
You feel like you'd have to remove so much of it, it just wouldn't be exciting by the time that it was actually competitive?
I think as an esport, like I'm talking specifically through the lens of looking at it as an esport, I think trying to make it into that would not be a good idea. I mean, it'd be like trying to make Diablo 3 into an esport, right?
Which they're trying to do with PoE right now. I've seen more and more races and things like that with PoE. Not necessarily official. Actually, Method's been running a lot of them. But I've seen like a whole bunch of races. What do you think of PoE races?
I think if they try and make PoE into an esport as well, it'll also kill the game. Like that's like the exact same thing. I think trying to make PoE. I think PoE racing and all that is great. I think it's awesome. But if they were to put rules in and start balancing the game around trying to make everything perfectly balanced and just taking out anything that could be remotely overpowered, and trying to make it all like I don't know, like some sort of ARPG version of League of Legends, that'd be awful for the game. And I don't think they'd ever do that. But I would be open to see another mode, I guess, like a racing mode where they could reduce RNG, so everyone gets a 4-link and the opener, and everyone they I don't know, like they have. I'd be open to see like if they were to make like custom modes specifically for racing, as long as it didn't eat up a bunch of development time for actual new content. Because I mean, I wouldn't be into that. Like I wouldn't be into like racing hardcore, but
yeah, I do want to say to the chat really quickly. I never have to address you guys, but seriously, if any of you say P omega lol E again, I will ban each and every one of you. I love PoE. It hurts my feelings when you do it. I know that you're trying to trick all of us right now.
It's a good game.
Does it?
It's actually a good game. I think PoE is one of those games that people usually don't just completely hate. And yeah, I mean, I do kind of agree with you. Like doing the same thing with Arena, I think has kind of caused the same thing to an extent, right? That's why we had stat templates in Legion, and you couldn't change your gear or anything like that because they just wanted it to be completely competitively based. And outside of that, I mean, the game just wasn't really as exciting or interesting. And so,
that's why you have tournament realms, right? Like,
exactly.
So they can have their tournament realm where they can do that, which would be kind of like, okay, I'd be all right. I'd be okay with them having like a tournament realm for PoE where they just do racing and then they can remove a lot of the RNG. But I don't want them to change the game that I'm trying to play and start removing all of the RNG and all of the kind of cool shit just for esports, because that would be, I think it's detrimental to the game. Right?
That's what I kind of worry about them doing with like, I think that's kind of what happened with Mythic Plus, where you can't change gear inside of Mythic Plus. Like, I feel like that's probably like a MDI type change, and I didn't like that at all either. I don't know, like, so just in general, like, you obviously have come back and you've been playing Shadowlands a lot more. You came back for the alpha and everything. Do you feel like after seeing what you saw so far with the Shadowlands alpha, you feel like you'd be playing more of it, or like, what are your general impressions?
This is the most of any alpha I've ever played, and it's the most I've ever enjoyed any alpha by like, it's not even a small margin, right? Like and I don't know if that's just because, I mean, it's 100% Torghast, right? I don't really I didn't care for going through the leveling zones. I didn't care about hearing about some of the design decisions they're going ahead with, like, removing Titan Forging. I'm kind of like, whatever. I don't really care too much about Titan Forging memes. I know that upsets a lot of people. Like, Titan Forging, I reckon if they just put in like a deterministic system to upgrade gear and then keep Titan Forging in, I wouldn't have cared.
That'd be okay.
The fact that they're removing it is like, I'm kind of like, whatever. But honestly, it's totally Torghast. That's the reason why Shadowlands is looking good. And I feel like if they play their cards right, it could be amazing in-game content. Like, it could be the greater rifts of WoW, right?
What do you worry about? What do you worry about with them developing Torghast? Yeah.
Oh, just them turning into some bullshit raid finder side quest thing, which you just go into once a week, right? Like, they just make it some trivial, like, there's no difficulty, there's no ranking, there's just like, you just kind of go in there and it's like some sort of, like a quest where you hop onto like a vehicle and you just one-shot everything. I hope it just doesn't turn into that, because it could easily do that, right? If they were to say have normal mode difficulty scaling on Torghast with no rating system and they make no more changes to it, it would be terrible, right? It'd just be like some boring shit where you just go around and just one-shot everything.
So what role would you like to see it play in the end game then?
I want to see, I mean, I kind of want it to be kind of close to Mythic Plus in the way that I want to see Mythic Plus have a rating system. I want to see Torghast have a leaderboard specialization specific, like in the game, or at least have an API where they can grab a score. So because at least at the beginning people will be hype and like, oh, let's see if we can push rank 1, Fury Warrior or rank 1 Red or whatever, and that'd be fucking awesome. Like fishing, farming keys and then doing like key pushing streams where you try to go
back in Diablo 3.
Yeah, like Greaterus, literally like Greaterus, and providing they make it difficult, right? I mean, right now I think the bosses in Torghast as well, they're trash.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are okay, but do you remember Mage Tower when it first came out?
Yeah, I remember
Like,
you and I streamed it that night, and you got yours before me. I was pissed. I logged on, and I saw you doing it and wiping. I'm like, because I got like a 10% attempt on the boss, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna turn on my stream. I'm gonna show these idiots how it's done. I turn on my stream. I spend 3 or 4 hours choking, and then my chat comes in. Oh, Quin just got his. Quin just got his. I'm like, really? Fucking ban you, piece of shit.
I hate that.
I was
hate
so
that.
mad. But it was fun. It was a great night. I remember that night very clearly.
Yeah, and
those bosses
that's what
were
I
way
would like
better.
to see. Bosses like that, right? Put into the tower, like every time they do a patch, right? They could keep updating the tower and they could keep adding in like really difficult bosses and bosses that would take a while to master, right? Because you're gonna need to farm the keys, progress to the tower, learn the boss fight mechanics, and it's gonna be like a while before you've seen every boss and mastered every boss. And they make like difficult bosses, and then they also, I could go on. There's a lot of things I think they need to fix in Torghast, right? It's really fun. It's really good, but also like this, the way in which your character power creeps so fast, like the way in which you snowball out of control after like 5 floors, 10 floors.
How do you think they should fix that?
Well, they need to clearly their scaling's wrong. Either they need to reduce the power of the buffs, or increase the HP of the mobs. Which I don't think they should do the HP of the mobs. I think they just need to change the way the buffs, like the one where you get crit multi, and then you get like 100% crit chance, and then it's literally just damage percent multiplier.
And then every single time you crit, you deal nature damage or something like that, and it's just you just go crazy.
Yeah, it's stupid. They need to the 100%. It's kind of fun initially, but it gets boring really fast. And I feel like the peak performance in terms of gameplay is like where you still have to play and be conscious as to what you're doing. But not like you're spending 10 minutes between every pack of mobs. Like I don't know, somewhere where it's like yeah, floor 30 would probably be kind of accurate around that difficulty. And then they have to try and keep it there. And then, see, that's the thing, right? Like, for a leaderboard system to work, it would need to get more difficult, right? It wouldn't, whereas I know the roguelikes are supposed to get more easy. So it's like, if you wanted to have like an infinite floor that goes forever, like, I don't know how they would do it. Like, it starts off kind of hard, gets easier, plateaus, and then starts getting harder. Like, I'm not quite sure how they would do it, but I feel like for a competitive leaderboard, that's how it would have to scale, right?
So here's something that I kind of want to run past you right now. Do you play many roguelikes out of curiosity? Because I actually have a few suggestions if you haven't really tried a few, because I think I know a few that you might like.
People's reference Binding of Isaac a million times.
Binding of Isaac is like super outdated. Like, you should play it it's like playing Mario. It's like, who the heck's gonna play like stupid Mario Luigi game or something like that? It's like, of course it was really good. It really like revolutionized the jump. It revolutionized character feel. But at a certain point, it's like, yeah, like, you're not going to jerk off to the Mona Lisa now. We have fucking Pornhub. Like, the time makes art better. And I think that there are a lot of better roguelikes that you could play now that have really evolved the idea. I actually think you would like Children of Morta a lot. I've been playing it a lot recently. And it's also like, it's very much an ARPG roguelike. So I could see you really liking that game. But the main thing is that kind of blows me away when you play in the tower, how many just straight up passive stat anima cells there are. So it's like, okay, 5% mastery, 15% mastery. And by the end of the run, yeah, it feels okay sometimes when you just have like, you're like, oh, I have 400% haste or something ridiculous like that. I know you were playing on Warlock. It's really easy to stack haste on Warlock because you can get the Curse of Tongues one for each thing that has Curse of Tongues. Yeah, it gives you an extra 5% haste if it's in range with you. That stacks up.
They required skill, so I didn't pick that one.
Oh, that one's really good. I got up to like 1,000% haste with it or something stupid like that. But yeah, I mean, all in all, yeah, you still do have the choice there to not go for something like that. But what ends up happening in Torghast is pretty much every time on a Warlock, for example, you just get a bunch of secondaries. So your damage is inherently high. And like you said, it becomes a raffle stomp. But in other roguelikes, what usually happens is you have a very unique build. So even if you are just deep dicking something, it does feel very different than any other run that you've had, because this time you're using a hammer and all of your abilities are stunning something, compared to the last run where you had a different ability that was just pulling everything in and you were doing big AoE.
Well, that's
right.
That's a really good point. I really liked. So I went back and I did the story mode, the new Torghast thing they added yesterday, and what they ended up doing is that, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but almost every single buff that I got was for Whirlwind. So it was like, even if I didn't want to build Whirlwind, I would be stupid not to. And I think that if Blizzard, they create the Torghast runs to where each different run kind of weights towards a certain ability or a different spell, and that way it kind of encourages the player to have some diversity with their runs. I think that'd be good too.
Yeah, and I mean, just different pathing options as well, right? I've brought up Dead Cells a lot because I think that game does it really well. Because Dead Cells, you basically have 3 different trees. One is focused on a lot of traps, a lot of you have like a bear trap, and then like a turret, right? Would be one of them. The other one's focused on melee. Right, so you're getting in there and you're up close and personal. The other one's focused on actually like sitting back with shields and being tanky. The thing that they do though is some of the items drop, like you level up one of those trees, but some of the items have a chance to drop as golden, which then makes it affected by all of the different trees. So like now all of a sudden you get this really rare drop, and where it would usually be an item that would be focused on melee, now you can use it in your range build, which creates these cool dynamics. Like there just aren't any trees like that in the current version of Torghast, where you do have those options where you're like, man, I really want to play a Whirlwind build, but like Zach said, I would feel stupid not to take this because I've gotten so many things that buff my let's say my shouts, right? I know that they have resounding
Well, it
song
sounds
or whatever.
good to be able to just make your entire decision every single time and choose the same things every time, but I feel like that's just going to get boring. Like it would get boring for players. And even though it's like, yeah, you always want to go with the option that's best for you, I still think it'd be boring. But it depends on how they want to do it.
Yeah. I don't know if I would want your entire build to be decided by Blizzard though. Like that sounds kind of lame.
Oh
like,
no,
randomly,
only.
They've chosen to give you this build.
Yeah,
like...
I agree with what you're saying. It's more or less like kind of a influence. Like, okay, well, you get maybe 50% of these, or it's like 40-60, something like that. Not to where it's like, okay, this build is going to be Whirlwind for sure, and all you're going to get is Whirlwind. It's just like sometimes you're going to see more of those, and if you build towards that, you'd see a little bit more of an advantage than if you just went with your current build that you always go with.
I agree with Quin though, because like I don't think that you're wrong, Zach, but I feel like the build itself shouldn't necessarily be weighted, but they're just all of the different options have a chance to drop, and then you're making the decision on the fly. Because I think what Quin says is really important. You don't want to just like, you don't want Blizzard to be like, okay, on this run, you dance, meta slave. Like you very much want to be going with the ebb and flow, and you're like, oh, I see this and I react this way. And that's where a lot of the actual skill is, right? I mean, when you watch like Quin play Path of Exile, and he's about to do Awakener 8 for 2 months, you get to see him make these different decisions that you're like, okay, like I know the risk that's assessed with this, and then you see him adapt if he completely tanks like his gem, for example, or something like that. And those moments make it super fun to actually watch, because that's the skill, is actually being a 5-headed player like Quin, who's going to go like, okay, here's the risk. If I take this risk, I'm going to be able to do that, but I have a plan of contingency.
Okay. What do you guys think about the scaling of the tower, though? In terms of, do you think it should just progressively get easier and end at a specified point?
No, I think they got to make it harder, man. Like, I mean, the bosses are a fucking joke. They don't do any mechanics. There's no transitional changes. They just suck. And the mechanic where they just do more damage, I don't like how at 10 stacks, the mob goes from being not a threat to just being a god. I think that they should have that be more gradual rather than just have it be like a cutoff to where, okay, he's not a threat at 9 and at 10 he kills you. It's too much of a difference and too hard of an enrage. But I also think that they need to do something to where the mobs are either more powerful or they have more unique, different, or harder to avoid abilities. Because right now it does feel the same way. Like, how do you have the same level of power growth that Torghast has without just kind of running into the problem of players just getting so powerful they can just run the tower infinitely until they fall asleep, basically?
Yeah, because how do you fail? There's no fail condition. Once you make it past that threshold, you can't lose, and that's what I hate. That's to me is a nail in the coffin. What's like literally if they want to kill the tower, you make it so you just auto win at a certain point, and then any sort of competitive thing in regards to the tower is just dead, like in the water. It's like any sort of rating, it's like, what's the point, right? It'd just be like who can complete it the fastest, I guess, but that would still be trash, I think.
Well, it's like proving
So
grounds, for example. Like, it would be cool to see proving grounds, like, because some people do compete with like trying to get the highest ranking in proving grounds and stuff like that. It's a very, very small amount of people, but it does exist. And one of the reasons why it's a very small amount of people is that the time investment to get to the points of the game where it's actually challenging is like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. And that's also something they don't want to run into. I feel like they either need to scale up the health more, but I think also a problem is it's the same problem with Classic WoW. If you doubled the health on a lot of mobs in Classic WoW, it would still be easy because the mobs are fundamentally easy because they have easy mechanics. And they need to create bosses and mobs in there that actually have more interesting and dynamic mechanics rather than just, you know, a charge at you in one cast, which is hard at the beginning, but once you get enough damage, it just doesn't matter at all. And even if it hits you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I hate to say it. It's just like make good stuff in the game, right? It's a little bit reductive, but at the end of the day, it's not interesting to just not have a good build and not be able to kill something, because I know I've brought this up a million times already. I think it's been 3 episodes, but that buff is just, I hate it. I hate it on bosses. I was actually really happy with what we settled on yesterday God, that was 3 days ago probably now, or whenever it was, when we were just kind of relaxing and talking with Fandy. What we were basically talking about, for anyone who didn't see that conversation, right now there's a stacking buff on elites and bosses called Unnatural Power. When it gets to 10, they are no longer CCable, they are no longer kiteable, they're doing 100% increased damage, and they have 100% increased move speed. And it kind of serves as like a patchwork in Rage, where you're just like, okay, I can't beat this anymore, it's going to catch up to me, it's going to slap me into the Shadow Realm, and it becomes really frustrating. Why does it exist? Because they don't want Frost mages, for example, to be able to walk into a floor and just kite for 6 hours, get the floor done, and be like, oh, look at me, I got to floor 876, I'm so cool, and then post it on their Instagram or their Tinder or whatever the heck that they're on, where they would think that that's a cool achievement, and there you go, all the towers busted. So I understand why they want anti-kite mechanics, but on the bosses, it feels terrible because it makes the bosses just be a DPS check instead of actually being a mechanics check, and the mechanics right now are easy.
What I was going to say is there's ways of doing it and actually making stuff difficult. And that's just creating bosses that don't have... You don't even need a stacking debuff necessarily. You just need to make... I mean, I feel like GGG, okay, Path of Exile boys, they do it pretty well with Uber Elder. They have like really, you know, you've got like kind of quick reaction time balls that have penetration that will pretty much kill any character. Depending on if you're using some sort of unethical build, which gets nerfed, right? But most of the time, it's designed to just kill you. If you miss out the mechanic, you just die. And just like the slam, if you miss out the mechanic, you just die. And it's gonna kill, like, as long as they make mechanics that basically, it doesn't matter how much you try and cheese it, it's just gonna kill you if you get hit. And then there's enough things happening that it's gonna eventually get you. Like enough playtime, you know, at some point it's just gonna get you, because you can't avoid everything. Eventually you're gonna make a mistake and die. I feel like they just need to make mechanics which are difficult, and there's lots of them, and you can't like over-gear them or out-level them. They'll just like, if you get hit, you just get fucked, basically.
Well, another thing with Uber Elder, I think another example with a Uber Elder is that it goes immune. So even if you have enough damage to one-shot Uber Elder, you can't do it. You have to go through the different phases. And I feel like if Torghast did something like that, it feels bad, and it's the same with Sirius. It feels bad whenever you have enough gear to like kill Sirius really fast and you can't do that. Like I watched Rich play his character, and his character was just like ridiculously overpowered, and he still had you still had to go through all of the different portals or the void zones and stuff like that, and that does kind of suck. But I don't know really what the in-between for that should be. And I think that they just need to give the bosses more health. Like that's one thing. They need to give the bosses just more health.
I messaged Quin when I felt like I really ascended and became a god in PoE, and I said, dude, I am the best, I'm a PoE god. And he just messaged me back a picture of Larry David and said, sure, Rich, and it crushed me. I thought that I was finally going to be acknowledged as the true PoE gamer that I was, and I said, what the fuck, dude? He sent me another picture of Larry David and said, sure, Rich. It went on for 20 minutes. I cried the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah. unethical aura stacking felt really, really good this league. It really was fantastic. But I think serious, that fight has moments that really suck. I think that there are moments in that fight that I really don't enjoy for the same reason that I thought Mythic Ashara was a really bad fight, where you just have these robot abilities where you're like, okay, I'm line of sighting, so fun. Like when you're actually moving away and trying to bait the orbs. I mean, we're all good baiters here. I know that. I've seen that in the chat, bunch of masturbators in the chat. But the thing is that's just not really a fun mechanic to go through. But when you actually do have those circles that go down and that mechanic ramps up over time and you're looking for the little thing to run out, I think that mechanic's like relatively fun. And there are mechanics like that mechanic could so easily be in WoW. And then on certain classes, there are just abilities that you could use to get over that mechanic very well. I mean, like warriors, you could be using heroic leap. If you're a warlock and you actually had your portal, it would feel incredibly good, and it would actually use the mobility kits that classes have. If you were a paladin, on the other hand, that would be a very hard ability to deal with. So it would feel completely different class-based because paladins,
well, Torghast
as you
is
all
tuned
know,
for
are very
classes. And I'm curious, Quinn, what your opinion of this is, but do you think that they should tune Torghast for individual classes and specs? Because I'm sure you've tried tank and seen the health changing dynamically whenever you do that.
Right, I think that's one of my biggest complaints is that the balancing for the tower is just awful, right? Like a tank versus, if you compare a Vengeance Demon Hunter to a Shadow Priest, one's basically Raid Finder easy mode, the other one's like Mythic mode, right? And it's like completely disproportionately, favored towards a tank. But then again, if there was an actual leaderboard in the game and, at a certain point, like as long as you get like past the Mythic difficulty, like anything beyond that point of like really, really hard for everyone, it kind of becomes irrelevant. You're just doing it for the EPing basically. As long as everyone could reach that point, I'd be fine if there was specialized leaderboards. But if there was no specialized leaderboards and, to compare against your own class, at that point, no, then I'd be pissed off that my mate can do, like my Vengeance Demon Hunter friend is just objectively better than me just because he's playing that spec and I'm playing this spec.
Well, that's the same thing as Diablo, again.
Yeah, but they have a leaderboard, right? So I don't need to compare myself. Like, okay, Wizard's doing like literally 150 times my damage, right? Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, there's builds where the Wizards do 150 times the monk's damage. But I don't care that he's pushing like whatever, 50 greater is higher than me because he's a wizard and I'm a monk. So I'm comparing against the other monks, right? For example.
Yeah.
But if there was no leaderboard, then I'd be furious. If there was no leaderboard, I just knew that if I played a wizard, the game's So it's like it depends on how they do things. And obviously, I really want leaderboards. Like I don't know if you can tell this. Like that's the reason why one of the rangers and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do Allcraft. Like because I wasn't really sure, but I was like, I want to push my agenda of I mean, there's got to be a dev in here, right? Like you've got to put leaderboards.
Make yourselves known, devs.
Yeah.
You got to put leaderboards in Torghast, or at least the API for there to be some sort of third-party leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't do that, then Torghast is doomed.
Well, look at Diablo. I mean, I actually think that's one of the things Diablo does really well. I actually, for some reason, people make fun of me on the show all of the time, but I think it's mostly your fault. I end up playing every single season of Diablo. The thing is there are a lot of things that are good about that game that definitely could be looked at for WoW. I think there are definitely some bad things in that game, like pretty much everything. But the when you look at the way that the leaderboards do actually function, I have seen your name, right? I remember, I guess it was this season because the seasons are like 8 months long. Like Diablo seasons actually last longer than it takes for a child to be born. But when I watched you play, it was on the Monk, and you were pushing it. Yeah, it was during this season, right? Because this season's the one with the rampages, basically. That was awesome to watch, and I also saw in game how far you had pushed. And I could look at your build, and it was really cool. Something like that in WoW for Torghast, if you could actually see the anima that they ended with as well, I think a lot of players could enjoy that.
Greater Earths is the best thing, like the best. So, okay, Diablo 3 is pretty much dog shit the entire way through. But Greater, I mean, the game would be dead if there's no Greater Earths, right? It would just be like, well, you would just have people playing on consoles and just doing the storyline, right? But the only thing that makes Diablo 3 playable is the Greater Earths. And it's the best thing that they've done. And honestly, I want to see a GR system, like, an optional GR system put into PoE as well. And just like I would love to see one in WoW. It's some of the best, like, dude, do you know how good it is to do really difficult content? Like, extremely difficult content. and you don't have to have 19 other people in the group fucking up and just dying repeatedly. Like that's what I loved about
because
Mage Tower.
then I can't preserve my ego and blame it on them.
You know what?
Yeah.
Like I think the best thing about GRs though that I would love to see in like PoE though as well, which I think gets understated sometimes, but every time that they add something into PoE where it's like, yeah, you pick up 6 of these to get 1 of these, and then you combine 19 of those to get 1 of these, and then all of a sudden you have a simulacrum. If you have 37 simulacrums, you can turn it into a greater simulacrum. Like every time that they have all those shards that you need to pick up over time, it gets really annoying. Metamorphosis,
because you have to pick them up.
Yeah, greater rifts, having all of the shit drop at the end is the best feeling in the world because you just get to blast. And I would love to see something like that actually happen.
It's the same as synthesis. Remember that? Like that was awesome. Because it would just like drop
I blacked out synthesis, bro. I don't look back on synthesis very fondly, except for exploding weapons. Those were the only things that I looked at fondly, and I already had an exploding nebulous this league. So hey.
Chris said it's by design. They wanted people like you need to adjust your build. It's like opportunity cost. Do you start to pick up the loot or do you keep going? They're saying they could easily make it drop, but they don't want to. It was by design. They made it so you couldn't like have a loot splurge out at the end of the delirium.
They know what they're. They know what they're doing. I think that's something where GGG, in my opinion, has definitely earned. They've earned my respect in that way. I definitely get mad at them at the beginning of a league for a couple days. I say like terrible shit on the internet. I complain when they nerf my build, but all in all, they're very good at talking to the community. And every single league, they make some changes that I think do go a long way. But
yeah, Chris is like the Elon Musk, bro. He's like Elon Musk, but Kiwi version. I'm telling you, like the computer game Kiwi version of Elon Musk. Like honestly, talking to him, he's unnaturally smart and knows about everything, and he just never swears, never says anything. The whole thing is just he's just like a crazy. He's like artificial intelligence or something. I don't even know, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not human.
It makes sense if you look at the game. I mean, like PoE is like one of the only games. Like I was talking to people about this yesterday with BlizzCon, and like people like go to BlizzCon to celebrate how much they like Blizzard and Blizzard games, and like what other company has that? And like I asked the chat, and the first one that they obviously came up with was ExileCon. And I think you need people like that to and Minecon. What was it called? Is it Minecon?
No. I was joking around about the Einhar intro. Never mind. You had to watch it.
Oh,
it's real good.
I remember watching it at a CVS because I was like just stuck there for some reason. I was watching ExileCon at CVS. And it was good.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. He's stuck at a CVS watching Twitch on your Yeah, dude, I wanted to go to
walking around me, same usual shit,
we almost went. We talked about it. We talked about going. It's definitely one of the very few conventions that I would want to go to. Obviously, I love going to BlizzCon, but I would want to go to ExileCon as well.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to the lesser version, Diablo 3, and actually talk about Greater Rifts for a little bit, because I think one of the biggest problems with Diablo 3 in its current iteration, and I probably said this on the show before because I constantly get distracted, but with Diablo 3, you instantly get to level, right? That is just how that works. You're going to get boosted. It takes 4 seconds to get to max level. Once you're at max level, you go about your season's journey, which is incredibly easy. It does not take long at all. And then you have basically, 70% of your power, 80% of your power. You have enough power that you can actually make sure that you're getting the set you want if you don't want your season's journey set, and you start actually getting everything that you need in place. By the end of the first play session, you are at 90% of your power. And if that play session feels incredibly smooth, that one play session just feels perfect. It's like a first date. Of course, nothing's going to go wrong. Then after that, you have to grind bounties, re-roll gear, and just do all of this really annoying shit if you want to get to max power level. And a lot of that is because of the infinitely scaling nature of the game, because of the RNG inside of the drops. Quin, do you think the Torghast could very easily get to a spot like that where you're in this terrible grind to get that final 1% of your power? You feel completely unable to change your fate at all, and that's that.
Well, it's different. It's different. It's because of the itemization. There's no paragon levels. There's no infinite +5 main stat, so you can never get to that point. Eventually, you'll get all best in slot gear because there's no time forging, and you'll have every best in slot trinket, and you'll have the only thing that will affect how far you go, I guess, is the RNG with the anima powers. But I don't think I think you're gonna hit a wall, right? And at that point, it'll just be like you'll be fishing for anima powers, not like it won't be like D3 like treadmill where you're on this hamster wheel of like oh, if I play for another, 3 days of doing 4-man, Paragon farming, then I can go up 1 extra level, right? I can go +1 level, which is just like the worst feeling ever. That's whenever I quit. Whenever I've got all my gear and it's like, and I've got all my Paragons and I'm at the point where the only thing I can do to improve is just basically get +5 main stat, that's when I quit. Because that's when it's like really bad. But I think WoW's completely different. Just you don't have the same issue.
Yeah, well, do you think that them adding rewards to Torghast could get to an issue like that? Or do you think that it's 100% not going to be? Because you're basically saying...
There's no Paragons. Like, there's no infinite +5 main stat. So how... Because you're going to hit a wall, right?
I don't think that would happen either, Rich.
Which is good, right? I've heard a lot of people saying, like, can you infinitely scale the legendaries, for example, right? That are actually in there. Like, can you keep getting, if you push like a little bit further, can you get 5 more item levels onto a piece of gear? Because we don't know everything about how the legendaries are working, and I do think that it's a reasonable concern.
It's probably going to be like Mythic Plus, where with Resident, where like if you do Mythic Plus and you do a 15, you pretty much get 95% of the way there. And like, yeah, you can bust your ass and go for the extra 5% and do like an 18 or a 20 or something like that. But most people just go with the 15 and they're pretty much all on the same level. So I wouldn't worry about that too much.
Yeah, I think it's important. So a lot of people are like, no, that would ruin everything. I agree. The reason that I bring it up is because I want everybody to agree that it's bad. Because like something like that, I think could very easily ruin the game. I think it could make something like Torghast feel very clunky. But already we've talked about a lot of the things that we've seen in Torghast. Quin, I know you've played pretty much every single class. We talked about some of the changes that we need to see Mythic Plus in general. I want to bring it up because I had a lot of fun playing with you in Classic WoW. Is there anything from your Classic WoW experience that you want to see be brought into Shadowlands?
Yeah. I mean, when it came to Classic WoW, I mean, I didn't treat it. I'm not like a big Classic WoW fanboy. I always said it was like, it's kind of like I look at Classic WoW as like I look at like whenever I make a twink character, it was like this a little bit fun on the side, and but I actually ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I think that was because of the difficulty of the world actually being scary. Like, oh no, I can't aggro 2 mobs, otherwise I'm going to die. Like, actually having to like think about stuff instead of just mindlessly like trying to aggro as much stuff as possible and aggro, just AoE it down. That felt good. I think just overall a scarier environment would be good. And then the length in which it took you to level up. I think obviously Classic WoW was a little bit much, right? But I don't want to see like I've heard about like 8 hours to level up. I think that's I like the idea of it actually taking a lot longer, right? And having to commit time to have a character, because then it's more kind of badass if someone, if you've got like 3 characters at max level, it's like that's a lot of time investment and it's just something more badass.
It's $180.
Like it's like an achievement. 100. Yeah, the boosts. I want them to remove boosts as well, but I mean that's never gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
Like. I don't know if that. I don't know if it's like Pandora's box or like it's kind of like they've kind of fucked it already, and I don't know if it's possible to unfuck at this point because of they've put boosts in the past, and also flying. I hate flying. I would prefer that they just never put flying.
Really, you prefer never having flying? I like not having it for the beginning. That's what I'm more okay with.
I mean, that's the best. That's the best part. Like, it's the best time. Like, that's when PvP. Like in Legion, that was like the glory days of Legion. The best. The golden era of Legion was until the flying was put in.
Really?
And then it was And then after that, like world PvP. Like I was world PvPing every day, right? Like I was doing shit. Like I was doing my world quest and just ganking everyone I saw and getting stream sniped a lot. But I still had just a shit ton of fun. And that was pre-flying, and then when flying came in, it was just like, the roads were dead. My usual gank spots that I would go to were just not there.
I mean, that's definitely true.
The fucking rogues, dude. Those fucking rogues.
Oh, yeah. Did you have them gank you?
Boy Magic and Crunkaholic.
Yeah, you realize I went to you after. So after I 1v5'd them, and then the clip was like sent around to various Reddits. And then after that, they stopped ganking me for literally months. And I saw them on your stream the next day, ganking you. And then they committed to like just whenever you were in war mode, the same guys. And I was like, holy shit, they've like you aggroed them somehow. After they defaulted. Yeah, I don't know. They defaulted to you after I killed them that one time. And I kind of felt sorry because I hated them. I reported them. These guys are awful. Stream snipers in general. Bro, what is this shit in BFA where your own faction can attack you? What even is that?
The Nazoth thing. It's the eye or something like that. If you get like the what is it called? You get the assassin. You get the alliance assassin, and then you have a quest that can make you hostile to other alliance. Which is like, if you've got war mode on, like, hey, that's what's going to happen. But yeah, it's a bit much.
But dude, in town, I just came back to BFA. I had been playing like retail for like I hadn't played in 2 years almost, and like in the main town, like and in the Hearthstone lady room, you know, the innkeep. I was just gang fucked by like 5 guys, and then they're all spamming like this and Crimson Sincere Regards and all this bullshit, and then it happened again. And having again consecutively for multiple days, they've done that, and it's dumb. Well, I mean, I find it. I'm not a big fan of it anyway. I guess I'm not a fan of it because I'm a streamer. Maybe that wouldn't happen to you that often if you weren't streaming, but still.
But world PvP is not fucking balanced. Like, I think that's what sucks about it, right? Is like if you have one guy that's like a blood DK and you're an arms warrior, I wonder who's gonna win 99 times out of 100. Right, it's so obvious, and I think that's really what the problem is.
It's also one of those things where it's funny, right? It's funny the first time it happens, but then when you're like trying to stream it, it just doesn't
this is like
stop.
number 17, and oh god, it's the same guy that killed me, and he typed out his Instagram again. Oh my god, it's crazy.
It's like if somebody in chat made a really funny joke when you were wearing green and said Luigi, but then kept making the joke, right? It wouldn't be funny. It wouldn't be funny at all.
No, it wouldn't. But does that ever stop them?
That.
No.
I don't think so. I don't think it'll ever stop. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even with in classic WoW, you got ganked one time, and like some dude would be like whatever. What did they call themselves? Those guys were actually cool.
The Ooga gang?
The Ooga gang. Those guys were cool because they'd gank you one time and they'd do their little. They're like Ooga, and then they go away.
Any of that, dude. Like it's very annoying. Oh, they did it more than once to me. They did it to me a lot, and so yeah, I did not like any of that.
Also, you brought up Instagram. I actually didn't realize that Quin had an Instagram. I feel really bad. I just kind of assumed he was enough of a boomer.
It's a dead Instagram, bro. Do not plug that.
Everybody go to what is it? Everybody go to Quin's Instagram right now and say "yep cock" on his last picture.
Oh my god, it has not been used in like multiple years. So yep.
And just go to his Twitter and just tweet "yep cock" at Quin Rex. Yeah, I do think that there are a lot of things though from Classic though that I'd like to see come over, but I know at least in my experience, like 7 was the thing that made it really fun, right? Like that was a lot of the goodness of WoW and the leveling experience because of that. Like I had fun leveling a second and a third time because of the people that I was playing with. I even had fun doing runs that weren't for gear I needed, which is something that I hope someday Classic has. Like I remember going into what were you trying to get? The epic chest, right? And like I was just running in there with you for like a couple runs. It wasn't anything crazy. It was like five arena runs, whatever. Just trying to help out somebody in your guild. And I haven't felt that way in WoW in a long time. I'm not sure if maybe people have just gotten smart enough that they realize that it's pointless to help other people, or if it's actually some of the game elements that cause things like that. But Classic WoW, I definitely do think it was a good time, and I hope we get some of that stuff.
Do you still play Classic, Quin?
No.
What made you quit?
Mainly because I feel like I socially will be obligated to do stuff if I logged in. So I'm just kind of not logging in because that way I won't feel like bad. I feel like I kind of ditched the 7 boys a little bit.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of have. Yeah, and I just feel like if I start playing again, then they're gonna want me to play more, and then I just don't want to start playing again because then otherwise I'll get roped into. I would enjoy it, and I enjoy Classic WoW. It's just there's not enough for me to do in there to like really justify. I just don't. It's mainly if it wasn't for the social thing, I probably would play it occasionally. Because of that, I'm just avoiding it. Right? It's like it's a weak reason to not play Classic. What do you get? What are you getting Zach about? Is there some what should they put in
to what
to retail from Classic?
Yeah, honestly, I'd like to see them get rid of raid difficulties. I'm not a fan of that. I like the idea of whenever a raid comes out, like all the people that have completed the last raid can go to that next raid. But the problem that I see now is like whenever a patch comes out, it removes all of the previous raid content from the game. And I think for a new player coming in halfway through the expansion, they're only really experiencing the current patch rather than all of the content in the expansion. Like that's one thing I really would like to see, come back, and just like
That's
a progression
true,
of
by the way.
actual raid content. That's the most
After coming
important thing
back,
to me.
Yeah, after coming back, I haven't actually played the other 2 raids or 3 raids. I haven't even been in the because there's like no point.
There's no
Or
reason.
The gear
Yeah.
seems. Yeah. Why
You
would I
pugged
go in there?
Nyloth on stream, right, Quinn?
Yep.
Well,
But
and
did you
it's
do Mythic or
Go ahead.
Heroic?
Heroic. No,
Okay.
I didn't do Mythic.
Okay.
yeah, it's a better experience in my opinion to go from Old Deer, Battle of Dazar'alor. Maybe you don't do Old Deer anymore, right? But you still do Battle of Dazar'alor, you do Eternal Palace, maybe you do Crucible once too, and there are more raids for the player to do. There's just more variety to do. Whereas like right now, everything happens and exists inside of Nilotha. Like there's no real reason except for a couple of trinkets to go back to Eternal Palace. And really, the Eternal Palace incentivization is better than any of the other previous raids, and even that's not really that great. So I just like to see, players that come into the game not just immediately start with like, just slightly below LFR level gear of the current tier, because I think it removes too much content from the game. That's it.
Well, I left BFA as a Mythic raider, Fame Slayer of Gahoon, full Mythic, full Time Forge. I found out like I had all Mythic gear from spamming Mythic Plus, and I came back and I was doing 1/10 the damage of people in my group on average, literally 1/10,
Pretty good.
and I had 1/5 the life points of everyone in the group.
Well, that's another problem, is the power growth is too big. That's exactly
It's
what
way
I'm
too
saying.
big, and
Yeah.
that's because there's so many difficulties, right? Yeah, but I think 1 difficulty seems a bit. Are you
2
just
with
saying 1 so
activatable
that
hard
hopefully they'll
modes.
go to 2? See, now that's what you've got to have, the activatable hard modes, right? Because I
Yeah.
just feel like that would kill off. I mean, what Mythic gonna do if there's 1 difficulty? So yeah, 2, and then with like a giga hard mode.
Yeah.
How do you feel about taking out the scaling as well and actually bringing back like 1025s and maybe having 25 have like a little bit of flex or something? Because I miss 1025. I actually liked that dynamic a lot, but
what
I also
you know what
understand
I
why
think they
people
should do?
want it.
I think they should make the mega dungeon be able to scale up to a 10-man and have it actually add extra mechanics into, like, imagine if you did Mechagon with a 10-man group instead of a 5-man group, and the bosses were a lot harder and they dropped like special types of gear. That's what I'd like to see.
Huh. So see, I personally don't like flex. I don't like scaling. One of the reasons that I don't, obviously it makes it easier to just start something, but also you never put yourself in a position where you have to grab a random guy. I've told this story a whole bunch. We were when we were playing Classic WoW, obviously that wasn't the case, right? You wanted to make sure that you were filling out your group for the most part, for pretty much every scenario. And we were walking through the world, and there was this one little warlock, and we just randomly invited him, and then he said, Asmongold's an idiot, what a cuck. And we were like, yo, you want to join Discord? And he ended up joining your guild too, and he's still a good friend of mine. Really cool dude, really woke opinions, and we never would have met that guy if we didn't need to have a warm body. And I do think that flex takes out a lot of those scenarios where you would just find some random person, invite them to your guild, and then start playing with them.
I remember there was one time I was making an ICC 25-man race like 10 years ago, and like one of the first people to message me was this shitty hunter, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna take you, like, get out of here, stop messaging me. And I'm sitting there spamming for like 5 hours, and I'm just not getting anybody, and we're at like 23 or 24 people. The dude messages me again, he's like, hey man, still got a spot? And I'm like, fuck, okay, all right. And I invite him, and we take the guy in there. And so there are some social advantages to not having flex rating, but it's just there are so many advantages to having it. I don't know if they could ever take that out at this point. I really don't.
Fair point. I think a lot of people too who were talking about, they were like, hey, I think if you need to go into the old raid tiers, that could be bad. And there were a bunch of different reasons posted in the chat. I do want to remind all you guys, we will be doing a Q&A pretty soon here, so you can actually air some of those questions. And then after the show, as always, we'll be doing the after show where we'll actually do viewer call-ins if you want to talk about it more in depth. But I do want to address that because I do think it's a very important thing. I think there is no way that the game can actually support having things like that inside of the game where you actually go back into the old raid content, unless the game is much more alt friendly than it currently is, right? If the game is more alt friendly, you naturally have good players going back to old content, now elevating the players that are a little bit behind, teaching them to be better. It happened to me. That was literally how I learned to play the game. Some dude was in there on his alt. He taught me how to play Warlock a lot better. And now here I am, right? If I wasn't in that raid, who knows what would have happened. And I think moments like that are really important, but the game needs to be more alt friendly. It seems like something they're moving towards in Shadowlands anyway.
Well, I think making it more alt-friendly is super important. I mean, like, I'm sure, Quinn, whenever you came back to the game, there was like 8 different systems you had to catch up on.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude, I'm doing dailies in the water place,
Ooh,
in the desert, and in the panda place, and also on the robot gnomes island. So it's like, and I'm trying to get all. I can't even fly. I can't even like, and just I couldn't even fit the quests in my quest log. I just had to keep abandoning quests and then picking up quests and then doing quests there, and then it's just nuts. Yeah, it's a complete mess. I don't know what the hell. I had like 4 orange quests, all telling me to go in different directions, and I'm like, what is even going on here? Like, which? I was overwhelmed with like which ones to do, and then I kind of just switched it, and they're like, yeah, do the sand people place, like to get the vision thing, and then so I've started doing those.
Yeah, there's like, so much catch up that you have to do. Like if in Shadowlands, like I don't know how you feel about this, but like I'd like to see a lot of that stuff like become account wide. Like any of those max level progression systems, I want to see as much of that as possible be account wide. I'd prefer that much more.
100%. Like that, anything that requires a huge time investment should have some sort of crossover to your ults. Like if you've done it once, then you have like either a sped up route on your ult or it just like transfers over. But I'm talking like it can't be like gear, right? You can't like, oh, you get up on this guy, so now you get a bunch of welfare gear on your ult. Like it should be like, I'm talking like necklace bullshit,
Yeah, necklace and like corruption level on the cloak, stuff like that. Essences, exactly.
It's two-pronged as well, right? I mean, first of all, you don't want to repeat the same thing multiple times if you want to play alts. And then on top of that, when that gameplay is actually a steaming pile of dog shit, you really don't want to do it twice. I actually got to the place where I thought I unlocked Zandalari Trolls, I think it was 2 days ago, because I finally went in and I did the rep. And then I went in and I'm like, wait, why isn't it giving me the quest? And somebody goes like, you forgot to do Toads of War, dude. And I was like, oh no, I need to do the war campaign. And basically what happened was because I switched my Warlock over, the war camp, I switched it to Alliance to leech off of Zach. And now all of a sudden I don't have the Zandalari war campaign. And I'm just not going to get Zandalari Trolls because I'm not going to play that war campaign. I don't need to stand straight. That war campaign is one of the worst narrative routes to explain things about the story. You're repeating zones in a watered down version that you just played on your other alts anyway. Like
it's fucking the war campaign's too fucking easy. Like that's the problem, is it's just too fucking easy. You go and you can just sit there. Like if you have any sense of a decent geared character, you just sit there while you're not even looking at the screen and you're like watching YouTube videos, just going through this quest line, not paying attention to anything at all. Like the entire max level questing experience is awful because of how easy it is. And it also gives no rewards, so the only time that people do it is whenever they have to.
People are saying, too, like, war campaign takes less than an hour. So does chopping off your dick. I don't want to do that either. Like, it's just not going to be something that I enjoy. I don't care how much time it is. I value my life enough that I'm not going to play the war campaign. I'd literally rather play Pokemon Blue on an original Game Boy than do the war campaign. That it's a better game. Yeah, I don't know.
What are you trying to say? That was a good game, dude. That was a great game.
I was gonna say, dude.
Yeah, that was an amazing game.
It's old. It's old, right? So I mean, like.
Well, all right, okay. Here's how I feel about it. Like, I'd like to see more of these max level progression systems. Like, I'm okay with them. I think that BFA had too many. And you're right, Quinn. Like, there are just so many little chores, so many little things that you have to do. And, like, all of these little minute things that you can do and can't do. And it just overcomplicates everything. And I feel like in Classic, like, one of the good things about that is that it's very simple how you need to play the game to progress your character, right? You do the raids. And like, I think it should be more complicated than that, but not as complicated as BFA. Like BFA is way too much. How do you feel about the visions? Because like that's kind of like Torghast light in a way.
Yeah, I mean, initially, I mean, right now, I would
Mm-hmm.
say that I'm enjoying them because it's like, okay, I have these keys, and I've got a lot of pressure on me to like try and get as much as I can out of each one of these keys. And it's I guess I kind of ruined the experience for myself a little bit because I did I did a viewer run, a heroic viewer run, and maybe I got a little bit of gear, and it just feels really really easy right now. But obviously, if apparently it gets difficult at some point, and then that's going to be fun because anything that is like straight up, anything that is difficult, and everyone has like an opinion that something's difficult, that I get excited about it. Like and apparently at some point the vision's like doing the five chest one or the something
Five
about
masks,
masks.
yeah.
I haven't got the masks yet,
What's
so I don't know what
minus
the fuck they
20k?
are. What's that?
Well, why are they saying minus 20k?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a bug. I encountered a bug inside the visions.
I've had bugs like
some
that
sort
too.
of yeah, some sort of glitch.
Yeah.
20. Yeah.
But you haven't
what
done the
happened?
masks yet, right?
I haven't done the mask yet. No, I have not.
Okay.
I was literally doing one before well, not doing a mask. I'm still unlocking all the visions and beating all
I
the
see.
different. I just went to Stormwind for the first time.
I guess it's
just
kind of
before,
crazy.
yeah.
Like you haven't really been back for that long. I mean, it's been like what, like maybe 3 weeks or so?
3 weeks? Has it even been that long? I don't even
I
know.
don't
Yeah,
think so.
whenever the alpha started, I started, but I didn't get on retail until like fairly recently. I think
I thought you
I've
got a
looted
retail
one
this
chest.
week, right?
I've looted one chest, so I've done
Yeah.
one chest worth of
Alright.
retail stuff. And yeah, 469 either. I mean, yeah, it's ethically sourced gear. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of that ethical sourcing myself in Legion with my different alts. It's very, very useful. What do you think about something like islands? Do you care about that at all, or is it just like, is that one of the things that like caused you to quit BFA?
Well, islands I feel like had the potential to be good.
Yeah.
But they just weren't. They just would like they everything that they kind of advertised them to be, they just weren't. It just kind of turned into this awful scenario thing, which you kind of just had to force. Like there was like some mounts and some things that you just have to sit there farming them all day to like randomly get stuff.
That's correct.
I wasn't a big fan of that. And the only island I did like was the PvP island, but then there was no rating system whatsoever.
Then nobody
the
cared
PvP
about
island.
it at all, and Blizzard just
Yeah.
left it by the wayside and did nothing with it, even though there was so much potential there, and they just squandered it entirely.
PvP islands could have been actually awesome, like with some
Yeah.
sort of matchmaking system and some reason to grind them. Honestly, I don't know why they don't put in these. I just don't get how hard can it be to put in systems. What is the thought process? Like that'd be a really interesting question. Like why do they not attach like different ratings to certain things? So then people are like have some sort of motivation to like want to engage with that content more and like to try hard and then it'll create like all this stuff for you to do, right?
I mean, look at what are islands, right? They're a battleground. Like if you make islands PvP, it's a battleground with a bunch of Mist of Pandaria scenario things going on. Is it interesting to have a battleground where events happen that you might not expect, right? It actually has a dynamic aspect to it. Yeah, potentially. But who's doing battlegrounds right now? Nobody's doing battlegrounds because of the reward system not being as exciting. Like it's such a small community compared to what it used to be. Nobody wanted to do the Mist of Pandaria scenarios. Was there potential? Maybe. But like you said, there needs to be a really good system involved. And I don't think that a system where you play against bots is ever going to be something that's incredibly welcomed by the community, but I could be wrong.
Oh, I mean, you have something. I think that playing against bots is, if you're talking about like PvP islands where it's like both teams are players and like you're playing against the bots that are the mobs on the island, but that's the same as like in League of Legends, you have mobs in the area too. I mean, I think that that's kind of different, but in a way you would have a lot of opportunities to make PvP islands better, but I think at this point Blizzard just doesn't care. And they just kind of let the opportunity go.
Well, I think that they're...
Yeah.
Go ahead, Quinn.
Well, I mean, like when they were initially put in and people were starting to do it, and like, was it in the beta or something? Whenever everyone was doing PvP islands, it was really interesting to do and really fun to do because it was like you would get these different items, you could like one shot each other, and it was like there was different strategies because it was like PvEVP. It wasn't like a battleground with just some mobs. It was like they could rush objectives and do certain things, and occasionally fuck with the other team, but like you could go an entire round without even like engaging with them effectively, and it was different to battlegrounds. Like that's what I was gonna say. It's like it's not
Yeah.
the same as battlegrounds.
Yeah, it was very
the whole
different.
other element. So like with a matchmaking system, and then like with some sort of rating and then rewards, like if you get over a certain amount, you get like X or Y or Z. Then people are motivated to do it, and then you're going to play that for. It's not going to feel as bad to play it, right? That was my whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely pretty boring, especially the PvE version. Like, I'll go and I'll do them for the mounts now, and it's just like, I'm not even paying attention at all. I just round up all the mobs, AoE them down, and then go to the next one. I mean, that's pretty much it. How did you feel like, Uldir, you rated Uldir, got Famed Slayer of Gahun. Did you like the actual rating in BFA?
Did I like the rating in BFA?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. See, the thing is, I think it was because I was doing like a whole guild where we were kind of like all streaming and stuff, and there was a lot of drama. So I think I can't really accurately say whether. I mean, if I look at the rating, the raid objectively, all I remember it was like that last boss was completely cancer, and then there was a lot bad FPS. Like that's all I remember really. Like I don't really remember much out of the raid. I just remember all the drama, all the bullshit that was associated with doing that raid.
Yeah, it was a shit raid. Like I don't know. Like, what do you want to see change into in Shadowlands for raiding? For you to get back into raiding?
For me to get back in raiding, well, that's the thing. I don't know. Like you had to make the raids actually have bosses which are fun, and when I say fun, I mean not bosses that have a mechanic where if one guy messes it up, it just wipes the entire raid, and you're just sitting there dying to some. I'm okay with having that if there's a mechanic like that and it's like at the start of the fight, but if you've got a fight which lasts like 8 to 10 minutes and there's these mechanical checks where
Star
people
Auger.
just like for example, Star Auger, or even Gul'dan, for example. I mean, I did actually like that raid.
Nighthold was amazing.
Nighthold was great, but it's like it can be extremely tilting, and then all of the really annoying drama and all that bullshit starts up from these, like, I don't know, if they can make raids that are difficult. Like my favorite bosses, I think, were all ones that were like tight GPS checks, and then also you had to like do mechanics. Like, dude, that one boss where where it's in Nighthold where it like smashes the bridge down.
Croesus.
When it was tuned
it was
tight.
fucking awesome.
Like if you were there, that was one of the best fights ever. Yeah. And you had these really cool mechanics, and people had to soak, and like you'd have to like compromise doing damage to go to mechanics, and you'd have to like you could like be greedy and then move back at the last second, and bosses like that, right? Not bosses where you have super long boring
Botanist.
faces.
Yeah.
You love that boss, right? Yeah, you love Botanist.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I didn't love it, why'd I spend a month on it? I mean, there you go. No, I know, man. I mean, like, I kind of feel the same way. I don't like it whenever a raid boss is basically wait for the dumbest person in your raid to figure it out. And that's pretty much what a lot of it was. And, like, okay, you have one person mess up, okay, do it again. But, I mean, having some of that is okay, but the extent that they had it in Legion, I wasn't really a big fan of. I do agree with you there. But, like, I don't know. I'd like to see, do you feel like raiding, because obviously in Shadowlands, we're going to have Mythic Plus, we're going to have raiding, PvP, Torghast, and maybe some other system, I'm not thinking of right now, in terms of getting gear and professions, for example. How do you feel like they can reconcile all of that and have like a rewarding system for each one of them? Because raiding, for example, it's a 20-man event. It's a 20-man endeavor. So just fundamentally, from a organizational standpoint, it's much harder to do raiding than Torghast, or to do Mythic Plus, or to do raiding than Mythic Plus, because you just need less people. So where do you want to see like the best gear come from, and how do you want to see them kind of change that in Shadowlands from BFA?
Well, that's the thing. I feel like, yes, it is harder to do raiding. I think they should have specific. I think honestly, the ideal situation would be every aspect of the game has some unique advantage in terms of like raiding could have like special trinkets that you can only get from raids, and they're like crazy good in PvE, and they have a use in PvP. But you can also do Mythic Plus and get really high level gear that would be similar. But then there would also be unique stuff from Mythic Plus, and then PvP would be the same. Like if you're super high rated in PvP, you can get gear that's equivalent to the highest raid tier, but there's be special PvP only stuff. And if there was like some PvP only stuff that has crossover with all the other in-game mechanics, PvE, some raiding only stuff, some Mythic only, then that way there'd be an advantage to like doing all forms of content. And it wouldn't be weighted towards like, oh, I'm not going to do anything else because raiding is purely the best. But at the same time, I don't want it so like people who do Mythic Plus are just more geared than raiders. So it's like it's kind of
it's a really hard
difficult
balance.
thing to balance.
Yeah.
I feel like a balance, but with unique aspects.
I think having like what you're saying with like having each different mode of gameplay have like the one thing that it's really good at, like for raiding for trinkets or for PvP for weapons or something like that, how it was in Burning Crusade, and then having obviously good trinkets in each one of them, but the best trinkets come out of each one or the best weapons come out of each one. I think that would be really cool, because I do think that Blizzard should try to encourage crossplay. Like I
love that. Dude, where people could come, if you were like a god tier PvPer and you get the high ranked weapons and shit and bring that into like a raid.
That's exactly what I did back in the day.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome. That was some of the best shit ever. Now, obviously there's going to be a lot of guys who are going to complain. Like I bet you've Method heard like, oh yeah, we all have to get 2400 now to be viable in raiding. Like they'd fucking lose their shit. But I feel like it only needs to be slightly better, right? It doesn't need to be like, it could be like marginally better to the point where it wouldn't really make a difference, but it's extremely viable and maybe even slightly better if you did PvP. And then just like, you know, the best trinkets would come from PvE. Just like you would have some unique aspects of Mythic Plus where it would only come from Mythic Plus.
Well, it was like at the beginning of BFA. I mean, I saw you doing PvP all the time at the start of BFA. Like you were doing tons of it because it gave good gear. And I remember, like, weren't you like 2400 or something like that at the beginning?
Yeah, I was pushing, dude.
Yeah.
I was pushing.
So like giving people an incentive to cross-play, I think is a great thing. But yeah, it's really a delicate balance between encouraging cross-play and then making people feel like they have to do, you know, this checklist of things. And how do you feel about the, so basically, you know, in Legion, or sorry, not Legion, BFA, Legion's the same thing. You had like the different boxes that you get each week, right? The PvP box, the rating box, kind of, or the bonus roll coins, and then also the Mythic Plus box. And in Shadowlands, they're putting everything into one box. And I feel like that's just going to kind of combine everything into just like one reward. Like instead of many boxes, you have just one massive box.
Does it add? I didn't hear about this. Does it, like, if you do both a high tier like Mythic Plus key and like a big dick, you know, 10 games of like 2400 arena, do you get like or did you get like extra rewards?
I don't know if the highest one just takes precedent or not. I don't think that they really have an answer for that yet.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I get this. People are complaining. Like, I feel like I can't even, you know, like, well, to be fair, when I say people, I mean, I've just seen PvPers just having a cry on Twitter about they feel like they have to do a million things before they can just do arena. And maybe that's an issue, but I mean, I guess being a degenerate that just plays computer games all day, I wouldn't care personally if you could like stack boxes or like get extra rewards. But at the same time, if you only get one reward, I mean, I would prefer you can get more boxes. Let's be honest here. For playing more and doing more stuff, and if there's more avenues I could go down to min max, I would always want that. But now, whether or not that's the healthiest thing for the game, I'm not sure.
I feel like the boxes, all in all, like just haven't felt good for a very long time. I'm not really a big fan of them in general. I do think that kind of what both of you guys are saying about how reward should work is really important. I think that there should be crossplay that's promoted. I personally think that there should be an overall, whether it's a seasonal reward that you actually do kind of go for. If it is seasonal though, like if new overarching like penultimate rewards are added, you would obviously need to be able to go back and get them at a later date. You don't want to have anyone not able to get some of the juicy power gain that you would be able to get from something like that. But there should be chase items too. And I think that if there is like an overall system that you're going for, like from Mythic Plus, for example, it shouldn't necessarily be the hardest thing to get done. It just involves actually getting in there, trying some crossplay, maybe finding something that you actually like. And then the chase item would be something that actually involves investing in that system a lot more and actually getting good.
Yep.
And I think we're about ready for questions. Is there anything, Quin, that you really want to get off your chest for the developers?
Leaderboards and Torghast. Yep. Leaderboard. They honestly, like, competitive, making it so Torghast isn't some like Rayfinder resident sleeper thing where everyone goes in and just like you just get to this point where you snowball and it's just easy and boring. Like, they need to curb the difficulty, make it hard, and then, I don't care if it starts off really hard, gets easy for a while, and then progressively gets harder. Like that'd be cool. Like where you hit a wall, right? Like, and then having a leaderboard. Also balancing a Torghast, like, just making so solo is like you don't have to go in a group, because I do not want to be forced to go in a group for Torghast. I would love it to be, you know, if you want to do solo, like, I mean, they've said this, But like, I mean, really, like I've seen Preach and them doing it, but like they do like Demon Hunter healer, and it's a complete joke. You just have a healer and he just heals, and then it's like 5 times as easy. You know, like no, like solo needs to be either rated in its own way, or they need to do some balancing, right? Somehow.
I've done like a little bit of group play, and I will say the group play is really fun too, besides being broken. Like Asmongold and I have done duos a few times together.
Well, we popped off in duos, man. Like that was really fun.
It was really fucking fun.
But yeah,
I mean,
duo rating then. Have a duo rating. Like,
I agree.
Oh, so again, just like Diablo 3.
Yeah, it's just a 2-man rating, a 3-man rating, a 4-man rating, and a 5-man rating. Like
that makes sense.
And then just.
I agree. No, I think that would be something really good. Now, the first question, this one says, Awakener 8 when?
Rich, who's that question from? Is that from you?
I don't have to read who wrote the question.
Well, dude, what you gotta understand is I'm a content creator, okay, Rich? So now, if I kill Awakener 8, then I can no longer clickbait my title. So Awakener 8 soon. But
soon,
probably never.
okay.
I can,
yeah, you know,
I can relate to that. I remember whenever I killed Huan, and I spent all day killing Huan, I literally had like a streaming midlife crisis after I got the mount. What the fuck am I gonna do for the rest of my stream? What am I gonna do tomorrow? Like, this is the worst possible thing to happen for the mount to actually drop. This was great, and now I can't do it anymore. So I can relate to that.
When I got
my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
You know, it's alive, dude. The Awaken 8 dream is still alive. I don't know if it's subconscious level. Obviously, I didn't intentionally kill myself on Awaken 8 attempts, but somehow it happened. I just spoke down and unclicked one of my gems. I don't even know how that even happens. It's like I sabotaged myself.
Yeah.
I did Awaken a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it was like it should have been easy, and then I somehow just bricked.
You should have died on 7 though too. I watched that.
Not even, bro.
You should have died on 7.
Nah, bro.
You spell blocked the fucking beam because you didn't play that.
Don't be jealous. Just because you can't get good in SSF, Rich. Okay.
Okay, dude. Yeah, but no, I totally do know the feeling, man. I remember the first time when I got what's the star serpent, the one from Mist of Pandaria. When I got the astral cloud serpent. Yeah. I like cried. I actually cried on stream, and everybody's like, "Wow, he's crying because he's so happy." I just knew I was out of content.
Yep.
I had to tap into the trainer. I started just like instantly being like, "Okay, dude, okay." And I like pulled up live stream fails, like did all the stuff.
Let's read this guy's logs. What did he say in 2017 in September? Yeah, look at this guy.
That's a really wait. You're actually reading someone's logs right now, or you? That's what you do.
That's what I would do.
Generating content.
I thought you were reading my logs, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" I was like, "Oh fuck, I'm gonna get banned." I would probably, if somebody actually looked at my logs in your stream, I'd probably get banned longer than I would if I showed a titty on stream. So we definitely don't want that to happen.
It's not a tough competition.
Yeah. So let's actually take a look. Do you think, I liked this question a lot. He said, "Do you think sockets should be put back on gear by default instead of procs, along with colors for bonus stats?"
Like BC.
Yeah, exactly like BC is basically what the question is. Do you think that should happen?
Is BC where you could just get a dual crafter and then you pay them something and then they would put a socket in your gear, or?
Well, the gear had like innate 3 sockets on it, and basically you could put in like strength gems or whatever, and the gems were colored. It's the same as like in Path of Exile where they have different colors, except for if you match the colors, you get a special bonus out of that. But you don't have to match the colors.
It was also the 3 sockets was only on like chest
pieces and legs, and well, I mean, if you want to get specific, Tusk of Manaroth had 3 pieces too, 3 sockets too. But yeah, basically chest and legs.
And then there was also the meta gem socket.
And there's some weapons that had 3 sockets too.
You actually used to do pretty cool shit with your gear.
Just for more stat customization, basically.
Yeah, I actually liked the meta gem on the helm. Speaking of meta, I also liked when Metamorphosis was actually a skill that changed your abilities for Warlocks, and then they took it away and made it a lot worse and made it an entire spec, and they should probably revert that as well. But yeah, I actually do think that could be something that would be really good. I also do like kind of what Quin mentioned, even though that's not how it worked in BC. I think that having...
they're doing that, right?
Yeah, they're doing more than that, which I do think is good. So you can actually use jewels now to affect crafting different gear, which is pretty interesting. Like if you use a crit gem, it's going to basically
it's like
influence.
fossil crafting, basically.
It's a lot like fossil crafting, which is very neat.
That sounds sick. What?
Yeah.
Fossil
Yeah.
craft? Holy
We watched
shit.
a Bellier video on my stream today. I know, big surprise. And we took a look and we saw this. Like, yeah, they're adding that. They're adding these belt enchants to where one gives you like kind of a gives you a thorns buff. Another one makes it to where you can kind of blink. And yeah, they're adding a ton of new shit for professions.
The main thing I will say with
badass.
professions is like I like all the stuff that's happening. I hope that they keep pushing it further, and I'm curious if they're going to actually bring back the economy. And I'm like, that's always my question: is the economy going to come back? Are you going to be able to get gold in reliable ways that aren't boosting people through keys? Because I feel like that's how most people farm gold. The other way that people farm gold is they lose all their hair and they stand on a mailbox and they beg. And then the other way that you actually farm gold is you buy it. You get a real world job. I don't think that those are the most beneficial ways to farm gold. I think that there needs to be an economy where you can play the game, earn gold, actually interact with people, and there should be crafters who are very rich. I think that that NMP emote, that's how crafters should feel. I've always thought that is an alternate line of play that is a very it's a cool thing when you see someone and you're like, wow, I can't even believe you play a completely different game than me. They just stand there and they're all day. They're like Valoris when he got it on. Do you remember that? Oh yeah, dude,
Yeah,
Quin
that was
tried
big
to
drama.
sell Valoris. Oh my god, you tried to sell one of our guildmates to Asmon. You
dude.
literally tried to.
yeah.
He tried to sell one of our
Remind
guildmates.
him, dude.
Dude, literally, okay, Valoris got the drop. He was the first person on the server to have greater spell power. He was standing on the bridge all day making bank. Like, this dude hit gold cap, standing on the bridge going, guys only want one thing, and it's disgusting. ... Greater spell power. And people whisper him he had a monopoly. And then Quin tried to sell him to Asmongold to get a helmet. That was disgusting.
It almost
I forgot about
worked.
that. Yeah, the free
It almost
helmet.
didn't it happen? I thought it happened. I thought
No, because he called me and he said, yo, you got to fucking talk to Quin.
Oh
And
my god.
then I had to talk to you, and then I had to talk to Asmon, and I had to try to get peace, and I had all the
Drama
special
frogs.
Olympics kids freaking out on me. They're like, yeah, you simp, dude, Quin simp. And I was like, oh, God. I was the one who
I
had to
forgot
deal
all
with
about
it.
the bonus helmet. Forgot all about that one.
We wanted a bonus mace, dude. I wanted a bonus mace up in there.
Oh, right. Yeah, I talked you down
that's
from
it.
the bonus mace into the bonus helmet. How could I forget? Yeah, those are some good times.
Kiwi bartering. It was
No, but real
absurd.
talk though, I think that's actually a point that I didn't even hit on. It was professions from Classic actually. I think carried more weight than professions in retail, and I would love to see them go down a deeper route of like making professions actually like forcing people to specialize into something, and then it almost being like having more permanence, like making it really hard to respec or like incentivizing people like you have to invest a bunch of time and a bunch of currency farming out recipes, and like you could become like a true legendary guy who has every single craft, and them actually being able to craft good shit would be awesome if they did that in Shadowlands. Like, because they had that in Classic, like initially anyway. Crafting was irrelevant, right? It was actually good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Classic
Crafting's had some it's had some really high points in the game. They were all just 15 years ago when our hairlines were also seeing high points. Well, I guess now they're actually seeing high points. That sucks. But I do want to ask about covenants, Quin, because we didn't ask you about covenants, and then we'll kind of get back to the questions that everybody else is putting in here. How do you feel about covenants? Because you mentioned having choices that do matter. Are you a fan of the current covenant system being the way that they're actually gating the power gain that you do get?
Well, I'm skeptical because obviously this actually reminds me of this whole subject. Okay, remember when they were adding an Azerite gear, and they talked about Azerite gear basically replacing set bonuses and replacing legendaries, and Ian was like, talking it up to be epic.
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
I remember seeing Zach. Okay, yeah, Asmongold. He was talking like, Azerite gear sucks dick. Fucking BFA is gonna suck dick. And I was like, I watched your whole video on it, and I disagreed with the majority, right? I was like, dude, Ian's literally fucking said that the Azerite gear is gonna have, legendary power equivalent bonuses on it. It's not just gonna be all like passives like we see currently. It's not gonna, and I went deep dick, right? I went deep dick.
Yep.
And it turned out you were right. Anyway, now I think they've got Azerite gear now
I didn't
to
want
the
to be.
point where. Yeah, I think Azure Gear now does have
Azurite
legendary
gear
port.
is not awful right now, and I think that if they did something like Azurite gear moving forward, it would be okay. But originally, yeah, it was just terrible for like the first half of the expansion.
Well,
Hey,
I'm getting deja vu right now. So it's the exact same thing's happening, where it's like Ian sounds totally reasonable, like talking about like making the covenants, pretty fucking balanced, making
Yeah.
it so they all have unique niche situations where they're good, providing like meaningful systems that actually matter and all that. And it sounds totally reasonable. And I totally think permanence is like being a Diablo 3 player where your spec doesn't fucking matter. You don't have a spec. You're just like whenever you're in town, you can change to whatever you want. When you leave town, you can, every monk is the same and there's no flavor whatsoever, no identity, and it fucking sucks. And PoE, you actually have to. There's like, all the regrets, and it requires, resources and time to respec. And you generally like identify. Like I make my one Inquisitor, I call him the Hammercock, and I'm the guy with a hammer, and I fucking go around slamming dudes, right?
cock means
And
cast on crit, people.
Well, he wasn't casting crit actually. He was just Hammercock. We're just talking about
Oh.
like it was a penis thing. But yeah.
Oh, that's real
okay.
mature. Yeah, real mature.
The whole point was that I feel like if they could pull it off and WoW, it would be awesome, creating more identity. Like, oh yeah, like fucking Zach, he's a vampire boy, and like he's got like a little tombstone on his back, and he means he can teleport through the fucking shadows and shit. Like people having this identity of like, oh, he's made this choice and he can do this. I like that idea, and it sounds good, but if they make it so it's totally imbalanced, and it's like one is clearly obviously the best choice, and everyone ends up respecting to this one covenant, and it could be really bad, right? But if they do what Ian says, like kind of like they were saying with Azar Gear, and he actually pulls through and they make them balanced and they create a meaningful choice, I think it could be awesome and really good. And I like the idea of permanent choices and WoW, or not purely permanent, just making it really, really hard to respec or cost a lot to respec.
So sorry to jump back to this, but I do feel like somebody needs to be the voice of reason right now. Azurite gear is still dog shit. I completely disagree with Asmon on that. I just want somebody to stand on the show for the record, so people don't think that we're idiots, because I think it's terrible. But besides that, I think Quin brings up a lot of really good points, and I want to bring up a big difference though in Path of Exile compared to WoW. As somebody who loves both games a lot and loves grinding out gear and trying to get as much power as I can on my characters, I think the biggest difference with Path of Exile compared to WoW is alting in Path of Exile is a lot cleaner in a lot of ways, because you level up that next character and you have everything that you need to instantly make that character power. Like your account gets more powerful in the league because you have more currency, so you can fund that character. Like I don't roll my second character until I know I already have all of his gear. I usually even buy that gear before I level that character. Like when I actually made my aura abuser, because I started out like volatile dead, right? I had already farmed up everything and I was like, oh, there's this broken build, better buy. I had everything purchased. And the second that he hit level, I started abusing auras, right? And you never really move backwards. The account only moves forward, right? Aura abuser. Jeez Louise, calm down, people. The thing is, though, is when you play WoW, if you were a warlock, let's say, and you really loved that Venthyr set, and it actually was big enough that covenant changed how you play the game, and it was a vampire warlock. Oh, sick, super metal. But the other side was the phase set, or whatever the heck that covenant's called. I forget what it's actually called. Let's say that was also so cool that it felt like a different class, and then you wanted to roll that as well. What would happen once you rolled that warlock? You would just be behind on gear. You wouldn't have a way to actually have that warlock be ready to play. So you wouldn't have the option in PoE to actually have those different tunes, have them at that power level, and have the account progression throughout the expansion.
It's also in PoE, you play the whole fucking game solo. I mean, in like raiding, and like there's not like social pressure in PoE in the same way there is in WoW. So like if you have the wrong covenant in WoW, there are people that would be like, okay, well, I don't want to play with you because you don't do as much damage. Doesn't matter what your class fantasy is. If your class fantasy is being dog shit, then they don't want to be in the same group as you. It makes sense.
Yeah, but that's assuming that they're not going to be able to balance it within a.
Do you think that they will?
I feel like obviously there's going to be a best one overall.
Yeah.
But if they tune it in such a way that they say, okay, this is the best one in this fight, this is the best one in this fight, and they constantly make boss fights where they're effectively, on average, all is useful. But now there would be a one difficult boss where there is like a best fucking thing.
Like the last boss.
At that point. But that I feel like that would only apply to like extremely apply to like method and limit. I don't think that would apply to some other guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it'll be the same in PvP, right? PvP will probably be unique in that way too, and as long as they let you switch them. Like, I don't know how you guys feel about like how often you should be able to switch your covenants, but if you can switch your covenants without like it being a huge problem, like I don't know, every week or every other week, I don't really see it being that bad. But Ian's already said that they want us to give them a chance and see what happens, and so we'll give them a chance and we'll see what happens. But I'm not holding my breath. I feel like this is a system that's doomed.
Dude, if they make it too easy, then why not just make another talent? Like, it's just another talent at that point.
Yeah.
And it's not really a meaningful choice. It's just like, I just made the correct choice every time, and you just change depending on what you're doing, that's just shitty. Like, I may as well just add another talent row on that point, which is cool.
That's what I would prefer.
I feel like in terms of an RPG, if you're trying to add flavor and identity and make meaningful choices, this is the right play, providing they don't fuck it up like they did with the Azerite gear, right?
And legendaries.
So I feel like that. Well, I really like legendaries. I just hated the acquisition of legendaries. I really, I like legendaries.
Well, at the beginning, I mean, they were very imbalanced. I mean, you had like Prydaz and stuff like that was not even nearly as good as some of the throughput ones for classes. Like, that's kind of what I didn't like about it.
But you could change them. Obviously,
yeah,
it
but
was
you'd have
the
to get
acquisition
them all,
of legendaries.
right? Yeah, of course.
But then once you had them all, you would change.
Okay, so if you had all of the legendaries, I thought the legendaries were awesome. Yeah, like, I mean, by the halfway through, like, end of Tomb of Sargeras into Antorus, legendaries were great. I was very happy with them.
Yeah. Well, I guess my point is that, like, the Melgers, if they're going to make it too easy to change, it's just pointless, and they should just make another talent. And they should just, just make it fully cosmetic. But if they can actually get it somewhat balanced, I don't think it needs to be. It's never going to be perfectly balanced, But if they can get it within reason, pretty balanced to the point where only people are going to care is like, which is the best one for the final boss of the first mythic raid, right? And so the method and those guys can care about it, whereas as normies who are just doing
it's whatever.
Of a mythic over, it's whatever. That, and I feel like that would provide a meaningful choice. Like fucking Rich he could be a little furry boy. He can pick the furry, he picks a furry faction and he gets some crazy little. He can turn into a little dog, and run around like a dog. That'd be badass. Like, oh look, there it is, little doggy boy over there running around.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was me clapping because it's such a good idea. I'm so excited about it. That sounds great. Did you see the new furry drawn eyes, bros? I do want to say, when you look at the choice that you're actually making, it's two different choices. And I think that that's what the problem is. You're making this huge choice cosmetically about your character and thematically about your character, how you're going to receive the lore, for example, which I think should be rewards in the game, and they should feel like rewards in the game. But then tied to that, you're also selecting your power. So you can't have those cool moments where, you can be a furry Volpira vampire, which I know I've been imagining my entire life. Trainwrecks and I are actually on a very special Reddit for it. And I think that you should be able to go for those things. Like, I look at Zach, and of course he's going to roll Venthyr. The dude wants to be a vampire. Like, he's that's his style.
He listens,
he listens to metal music all day. He lives in a dark basement or whatever. Of course he's going to want to go with that covenant. But if the ability sucks, because like, look at Warrior. I mean, the Kyrian spear is so cool.
So, like, what's better though? Like, having a non-choice or having a choice that actually matters?
I think actually making the choice just one choice and splitting up those two choices and allowing players to make a choice about their power and allowing players to make a choice about how they want their character to be represented. It's a non-choice though, because then
you just pick whatever's strongest always, right? And there's no real meaningful choice being made. It's like, I'm just gonna get that. Like, there's no choice. So they're taking. It's like Diablo 3 logic where they just take away the choice. They're like, it doesn't really matter. It's just an illusion of choice anyway. Like, isn't it good that you have to deliberate? Like, fuck, do I want to go cosmetics? Do I want to go power? Do I want to go PvP, PvE? I love the idea of a difficult choice. And then you commit to it, right? Like,
so here's the I agree that on paper that sounds really good, but look at it this way. You're getting a bunch of really cool new abilities inside of the expansion, and you're not going to be able to play a lot of them. They're going to have cool opportunities for use, and instead you are going to be in that situation where you do have to make that really difficult choice. And what is the payoff? are you going to feel better because you made a choice and you're like, yeah, I got the Kyrian Spear, boys? And it's like, well, we're raiding. We don't want to bring you. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, well, at least I look cool.
I think once you
chaos
create a situation where like people, because you know how the community is going to be, people are going to just identify a certain comp or a certain thing as being the best. And then for a lot of people, that choice is going to cease to exist because they're going to just go with whatever the best is and whatever is the numerically best option. And that's what I kind of worry about with the Covenants. And then also, if you have a situation where players kind of have to choose that best that's really good for, let's say, Mythic Plus in their playstyle, it does kind of make them, it gives an extra barrier that they have to go over to do like raiding or to go do PvP, for example. And it's like if you're a PvPer, you always want to go with whichever one is going to be the best for PvP, but it makes you doing raiding, it makes that even harder for you. So it's like making a choice and having imbalance between the choices, I think for a lot of people removes the choice. So we're going to have to see what the abilities look like, but for me personally, I think that they're going to be imbalanced and there's going to be a best, and if you're not that one, you're seen as an idiot. Like that's what I'm really concerned about.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people disagreeing in the chat as to which side that they do fall on, and I will say that means that there is obviously merit to the idea of making that powerful choice. Like, I don't completely disagree with Quin. I do sit on the opposite side of the argument, but
we'll see what
Preach
happens.
actually did it. I don't want these abilities
so
to be
ideal
balanced.
world, in the ideal world, in strat, well, you know, like just permanence is good for RPGs, right? It's good having identity and meaningful choices. It's a good thing. But if it's executed poorly, it's just a huge inconvenience, and it's going to be awful, right? You're predicting that it's going to be bad, right? Like,
oh yeah,
and
I think it's going to be awful.
Based on past experience, like, you know, as I said with the Azerite gear thing, I'm inclined to be like, okay, there's a very good chance that fucking, you know, Zach's right, and like it's gonna be horribly imbalanced. It's gonna create a bunch of, you know, issues with like disproportionate populations going to one thing and everyone, you know, being this meta, and then I could even see them nerfing it and then everyone just
people getting mad because then they pick one and then it gets nerfed. Yeah, I'm sure that will happen too.
What if they have like crazy? What if they go fucking 5-head mode and they actually pull it off, and it's just an objectively better version of the game where there is more identity, there is more meaningful choices.
I mean, here's the thing: like with Shadowlands, I think Blizzard's really going out of their way to try to appeal to the players and appease the players and try to meet people halfway with things, and I can meet them halfway. Let's at least test out the system, see how it goes, and then complain about it. But my projection is that it will be awful.
Did you see? So Preach actually put out a really good YouTube video. I watched it yesterday on stream instead of making my own original content. Yeah. He made a video where he called it Covenant Wars, and he listed all the abilities for every single spec, and then basically said, okay, which Covenant are you going to go for? And like basically every single one, like every single person went, like every class went Venthyr basically so far. It was one of those things where it didn't seem like there were like two people discussing it. And everybody pretty much agreed what the best ability was so far with what's out. So I don't think that these abilities are going to be balanced. And with them not being balanced, I actually think that shows that these things are broken in a certain scenario and they're things that you want to play, which I think is good, but locking it behind that choice of which cosmetics you go for makes it a little bit awkward.
I think there's also like kind of an added layer of borrowed power that I think players have kind of disliked in Legion and then also in BFA now, where like we have our Azerite necklace, we have our Azerite gear, and corruption now. And I'm pretty sure all three of those things are going away in Shadowlands. And in Legion, we had tier sets, the trinkets, and all of these other things. And you know, after Shadowlands, the odds are that these abilities will probably they'll probably get like the Legion artifact ability treatment, where some classes get them built into their talent tree and other classes don't. And I think players just want to have actual permanent improvements on their class, and getting their old abilities back is cool, but I believe a lot of people really just want new abilities too.
I want a Paladin teleport. Like, I want Paladins to be able to, yeah, bro. I want like they jump up into the sky and disappear for like 2 seconds.
Like the Valkyrie jump?
They jump, like they fall, like just disappear 2 seconds. You don't know where they've gone. And then they send like an angel from the heavens. Boom, just like slamming down with righteous fury, you know what I'm saying?
Yep, I know
that shit would be so, it would be so lit.
So, by the way, chat was saying that I was wrong. Basically, what I was going for, there were only 2 disagreements between Preach and his friend, whose name I forget. There were only 2 disagreements as to which one to go for. It was Warlock and Priest. Those were the only 2 classes where they disagreed about what the best one to go for was.
Yeah.
And then besides that, they were all for the same covenant. Kyrian did actually
Based on
win
what
too.
though, bro? Based on what? Is that just like single target DPS, like patchwork? Like, you know, what do you? That's the thing. Like, if you don't know the raid, like if you don't know the mechanics of the raids,
Don't
like,
you
how can
feel like,
possibly
and
determine?
that is true. You're right.
But they're picking overall, right? Because they're basically going for the scenario where it's like, okay, this is what you're going to have to play with more. And they were basically like, so they would talk it out. And they'd be like, from PvP perspective, maybe this is better. For a heavy ad fight, maybe this is better. And then they made the decision overall, like which one they would go for.
The way I look at it is that I think Ian and the boys who are doing the raid encounters, this is the way I hope the ideal situation is. Like they literally have a telechat of like, oh, which power is the best for each? The powers of this, which power is the best for this fight, that fight, etc. And then they would be like, oh, this power is like literally the best in like 4, and that guy's, you know, this power is only good for 1. And they would try and distribute it like by modifying the fights or the powers to make it even. And that would make the challenge of designing things a little bit harder. And obviously getting it right the first time with the powers would be hard, but I feel like it's doable, right?
I feel like that'd be it would create a contrived situation, though. That's like what I kind of worry about, is that if they do that and they say, okay, well, we want to make sure that this is going to match for all the different covenants, they'd have to then create all of the encounters with the mindset of trying to empower the covenants, right, and making each covenant seem useful. And I feel like that would just be it would just be weird.
Chat brought up a really good point as well. That quite a few people said it. They were like, hey, look, you're looking at all of this without soul binds and actually knowing what soul binds are going to be doing, which I continue to believe is a very reasonable thing to say, but we kind of have to be making
Who's to say that
these
soul
looks
binds
without
won't
it.
make it even more unbalanced?
Exactly, right? Like, we have no idea. I hope that that's not the case, but when you talk about balance, these abilities, if they were all balanced and they all did the exact same thing, it would be the most boring thing ever. I do not want to see the Covenant ability balance. I want them to feel unique. I want them to feel like they thrive in certain scenarios. That makes them cool. I go back to the Warrior Spear a whole bunch. The Spear of Bastion is a cool ability. It's very cool. It feels good. It rounds out the cool toolkit. It feels like a very good power gain to get. I would want to, on my Warrior, personally, be a Night Fae, because I want my Warrior to be able to hit on Hot Furry Draenei's. But I won't be able to go for that theme because I like the other ability, and I feel like those two choices should be separate. I feel like being able to choose what my character looks like and how my character plays in the game would be awesome, and I would love to see if these were actually the final tier of talents. If you actually got a level 60 talent instead of getting the power by the Covenants, if you chose Night Fae, I would love the Spear of Bastion to instead have like little Fae wings, you know, and like flowers come out, and it looks very Ardenwall. If it's Necrolords, the spear's made out of bones, and a tombstone drops on the ground, and these grasping skeleton hands puppet. I would love to see them double down on the thematics of it and actually make a powerful decision about your character, kind of in line with PoE MTX to a certain degree.
Could you switch talents like just whenever you felt like it though, with this scenario that you've made up here?
In my made-up scenario, would you be able to? Yes. I think that maybe some of the...
It's a non-choice then. It's a non-choice. So you're just going to switch depending on... It's like everyone's going to be the same. And they're all going to switch depending on what they're doing. And there's no one's going to feel unique. Like, oh shit, this is the fight where I'm actually good because my fucking power's good here. There's never going to be that because everyone's going to switch. Like, oh, the fight with the spear's good on. Fucking every warrior and his mom's going to be throwing the spear. You know? Like,
oh yeah.
And it's a non-choice. Do you not understand? By giving you the more.
Oh, I agree.
So it's like it kills the whole RPG identity, the whole flavor, and the whole meaningful choice part. That's you're just saying I want everything, which is you don't. It's like I guess it's like I feel like bad. It's like one of those you think you do but you don't kind of scenarios. But I feel like that's kind of how it is.
Oh, I agree. Like you basically said all of the good reasons for having the power choice be there. I just think that the negatives might still outweigh it because like that one dude who's like, yo, I'm really sick on fight number 3 of the raid, but I suck on every single other one because I have this Covenant ability, might not get brought to the raid at all to really thrive on that fight, right? That's what I'm a little bit concerned about. But I do agree with you. If it does get pulled off and everybody feels super empowered and they have that class identity,
I don't know.
it would,
like,
yeah.
If I look at it from my perspective, I've seen them do this thing where like meaningful choices matter and stuff like that. It's kind of like reforging Azerite gear, where that's kind of like a meaningful choice, like what you're going to spec your Azerite gear into. And what did that really turn into? It was just a pointless, annoying thing that you had to do where you just got 3 of the same helmet. It's like, okay, that's really, really fun. So I think that, like, yeah, giving people a choice is important, but allowing people to customize their character for fights, I don't really think is a bad thing. And with, like, the multiplayer element of WoW, I do think that it's really important that Blizzard makes sure that they don't give players tools to pretty much alienate themselves from the player base. And, you know, pretty much put themselves at a disadvantage. That's what I'm kind of worried about the most, is that players...
What do you say to someone who played Ret in Classic, bro? Like, what do you say to someone who played Ret in Classic?
That they're an idiot.
Most of the people...
Did I alienate myself?
Well, but you were the guild leader. And so, like...
I mean, I technically wasn't. I mean, I just played Holy.
Well, yeah, but, like, what I'm saying is that, like, most groups don't take Ret Paladins, though. And so that's why they changed them and made them better, because... a lot of groups are not going to take Ret Paladins and give them gear because they don't put out the same performance as, like, let's say a warrior.
But they systematically homogenized all the classes, right? They kind of, then they started, and they got to this point where every single person had interrupt, every single person had, you know, they all, everyone had the, and that's where I feel like they kind of derailed and they made the game worse.
I think Cataclysm was the point.
There's definitely a sweet spot, and I feel like that's what they're trying to go for. And just to outright say it's an awful idea, they shouldn't do it. I mean, you're not saying that. You're saying let them try.
I don't think that it will work. I think that it's a bad idea because I've seen their implementation of this idea over the past 15 years, and it's never worked.
I don't mean this in a mean way either.
I hope you're wrong. But
I hope I'm wrong too, but we'll see what happens.
I don't mean this in, like, a mean way either, because it's going to sound really mean. But, you know, like, I loved raiding with you. I had a lot of fun, and I think everybody in the guild did. But do you genuinely believe that we would have brought you to raid if we didn't like you? Right? Like, if you were playing Paladin,
that was a social aspect. That's why you brought me, right? Like, the thing is, the Classic wasn't difficult enough to require me to be that because the content was so easy. Like, for sure, if the content keep getting harder and harder, yeah, I would have just respect Holy. I would have just ditched Red to
and the game is hard enough now.
I'm just saying that I don't. But I'm not saying it's just not a coincidence that a lot of the Ret Paladins just tend to be guild leaders. It's not a coincidence.
That's what you got to do if you're really committed, though. You know, I don't think Classic is a good blueprint, but I think it shows you. It's like the exaggerated version where you can see examples of, like, you can see, like, why. Like, I'm trying to make a point here.
Yeah,
I don't think Classic
is a perfect blueprint.
Yeah.
As I said, like, in a perfect world that would work and it would make a lot of sense, but I just don't think that they're going to be balanced, and I think that they'll end up rebalancing them somewhere through, like, the middle of the first raid tier, and then that'll also create a lot of resentment with players, and it'll just turn into being a really, really weird situation where people just get pissed off, same as, like, Azerite gear and other stuff like that.
I'd rather see them not revolutionize something and have this high risk play that could end up being praised right now coming out of this expansion. And I'd rather just see them do something that nobody's going to complain about, even if it is more boring and it just works coming out of BFA.
I reckon they take risks, dude. I reckon that's what they need to do with WoW to take WoW to the next level. They've got to take risks. You can't just, like, have, like, that's what BFA was, like, a watered down Legion, and it was just shit.
Do you ever gamble at all? Have you ever gambled?
Yes.
Have you ever gotten to the point where you lost a little bit and you said, I just need to get even? And you have that, like, mindset and you're like, oh, I just need to get even. I just need to get even. And then, like, all of a sudden you, like, lose all of your money and you're, like, trying to overcompensate for the fact that you're in a position that you already lost, right? And at a certain point you need to walk away from those risky plays and you need to just, like, right. All right.
But dude, M+ was a risky play, dude, and so was fucking World Quests, and that was some of the best features of Legion, right?
I don't know about those.
But so is Torghast. But so, like, they're already taking
Torghast is good.
Torghast.
No, and that's a completely new thing, and then so is the Covenant. And so I think they should keep doing some risky plays, not ones that could destroy the game.
I think that
but
you're
I
right.
think Covenants are going to.
I mean, like, taking risks is super important, and at this point with WoW, the game is boring. Like, the biggest thing about BFA...
But you can't take a risk on every aspect of the game all at the same time.
I don't think so either. Like, which is... And, like, really, here's the way I look at Covenant. It's like you have a 20-sided dice, and Covenant's working out as a 20. 1 through 19 doesn't work out. And Blizzard's like, all right, who's ready to roll? And I'm like, oh no, not again. And so they're going to do it again. And like, that's what I'm so worried about. But I really hope that they are able to do something that actually is interesting and does provide some degree of class identity that players can choose beyond just like what they do whenever they create their character. I think the multiplayer layer of complexity does change it entirely. And that's a big concern with me. And, you know, having players choose not to play with you because you make the wrong decisions, I'm very worried about that. And I know people losing raid spots in Legion because of the right legendaries or wrong legendaries was a reality. You know, how much of that is going to happen with covenants? How much are soulbinds going to be tuning knobs? And these are questions that I don't even think we're going to know whenever the game comes out. We're going to have to see. But I'm okay with them taking a risk. This is my own projection, is that I think this is going to go straight off the edge. It's not going to work. But we'll see.
All right. The final comment is like, I think there's a good chance you're right, but I hope you're wrong. Yeah. And then that's it. There we go.
All right. I think we agree with that. Do you want to do one more question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me find one right now because all my mentions just say "yep, cock." 1 second.
Yeah, I she was looking at them just a minute ago, and yes, it's about right.
I don't understand. I don't get why everybody's just tweeting that. You'd ask anything right now.
Whose chat is that? Is that Rich's chat doing that? Like what?
Oh, it's everybody's chat. I mean, at this point, like, if you have the, do you know how that started, dude? Like, because I started seeing that in your chat originally whenever I was on break, and I was like, wow.
I don't know.
It's Quin. I thought Quin's chat started it as well.
I don't know who started it. It just started happening one day.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it was. I know it was the PoE guys. They just kind of like, they just really like cock.
God, dude. Like, I don't even get it. I don't get it at all. All right, Rich, you see one?
Just give me 2 more seconds.
Like, I just let them type whatever the hell they're gonna type now. It's just like if they want to type some dumbass shit, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Have at it, guys. Doesn't matter to me. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here?
Do you think Blizzard would ever undo the changes to GCD? Do you think that they'll ever undo it? I think it's a reasonable question to ask. And I think the biggest thing that we have to go off of is the Sloot interview, where Ian kind of talked about the reasoning because of it. When Sloot brought up the reasoning that Sloot's argument was basically the same thing that Quin said earlier on the show. So the question is to the two of you: do you guys think that they will ever remove it?
I'll go first. Will they? I don't think they will, because they've kind of committed. They've already taken the beating of a lifetime, like making that change. And I think they've made some compromises, but I think outside of like special cases where like it needs to be done, like I mean, I don't think it will ever be needed to be done. I don't think they will, because they've already kind of committed at that point.
Yeah,
they kind of sit on that.
I think that they've already gone back on it about 80%. Like, I don't know, Quin. This is the tweet that I like. If they want to keep the GCD, what I don't like is having to use 2 non-damage abilities in a row. Like using Paladin, using Wings and then Seraphim, for example. Like, that sucks. Or using Avatar and then Sweeping Strikes. That sucks. Like, using 1 GCD for your big abilities is okay, but whenever you have to do multiple GCDs for multiple cooldowns, that's whenever I feel like it really feels bad. And if they can just get down to that, it'd be okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe anything that doesn't do damage, right? Maybe just anything. I mean, that's kind of like what it was. Actually, in Legion, you could use like gunpowder. There was like a rogue had a damage ability that was off GCD as well, and they could do like 3 attacks in the same global, and it would just insta-give you. But yeah, what's Rich?
So, I've never been so insulted.
What motherfucker doing?
I've never been so insulted in my life. I just looked at chat for a second, and somebody had typed BFA and then the greater sign Rich. That was the worst insult that I've ever been hit with in my entire life. That hurt so bad. That was actually so mean. I lost like my entire train of thought. That was too far, man. That was actually too far. Holy shit.
That is really cruel, guys. Like, I've got to clean up this toxic chat. This is just disgusting.
Dude, that's the meanest thing that's ever happened to me my entire life. I do want to take a second to say, though, just based off of some of the changes that we did see, to all of the mages in the chat who have been really overpowered for a really long time, get wrecked, you idiots. Have fun rerolling. Yeah. Have fun rerolling in Shadowlands. Your class sucks now. I just wanted to get that off my chest. I actually texted Venaruki yesterday, right when I saw a bunch of the changes, like with mages, and I was just like, haha, idiot. And it was really fun. So I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. All the mages are crying on Twitter, and I'm just like, I'm just sitting there, like, I just like laugh.
That's what you
repeatedly
fucking
at
get.
them. Yeah, dude, I honestly want to see that class die. It's the worst. I wouldn't even care if they just deleted mages. Like, just delete them from the game, bro.
If I could delete one
As a
class,
right
it would be
paladin.
monks. Like, I hate how they run
Deleting
away. I hate how they heal. I hate how they put the thing on you where they can't attack you, can't attack them. I hate how they dodge attacks. Like, it's just everything about them just, it just makes me so mad. I hate monks.
Dude, all of chat's just like delete Demon Hunter. Literally every person.
Well, yeah,
in chat.
because they caught Mongo down by some Demon Hunter with like 2 abilities, just deleting him into the ground. Yeah, I don't blame them at all.
He's beat by a garage door opener. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the one thing that is really important with class design that I will say as we're starting to come to the end of the show here is definitely at all costs we need to keep feral druids in the exact same spot that they're at. It needs to remain the hipster class, and they need to be terrible. It's important for every other class in the game that they remain at the exact power level that they're at right now. It's for furries, weirdos, and hipsters.
I was a feral main for like 4 years, bro. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
I always knew there was something off about you.
Yeah. Well, all right. Are we good with questions, Rich?
Yeah, I think so. So basically right now, for anybody who is just watching for the first time, what we do now is we will do viewer call-ins to actually talk to all of you. We'll let Quin go. I also do want to say very quickly, the YouTube video from last week is live, and I'm just going to push this one live tomorrow. Big shout out to Daily Dose of Asmongold. He's actually been giving us the VOD, so I can put him up really quickly. The one thing that I will say is it took our artist too long to make a clickbait thumbnail of Asmongold that looked good enough that so that was why I waited so long to put up this video. I'm getting a system in place right now. So,
is it the one where I go like, or?
Well, I actually have been having an artist hand like oil paint you to look like a little bit more bald than usual, but like also like a little bit more buff. Like I can actually show you.
Okay.
So,
all right, that's a trade-off I'll take.
Yeah, I couldn't actually put the new one. I didn't get a thumbnail in time, but I felt bad, so I just put it up as it is. But look at that thumbnail. That is
amazing,
dude. That's the first.
So concerned.
Where is it?
Doesn't he? I just put it in the Discord chat.
That one? Oh my god, this one, dude.
Yeah, show him. Look how bald
he is.
This one up.
You look so bald and like so intelligent and stuff. And I thought that was really good. So from now on, I actually am getting all of them made ahead of time, so it's going to be ready to go up the next day, and we're going to have that maximum clickbait. Like, scroll down a little bit so they can actually see how well he made you look bald.
Yeah, just a minute. I've got to find it. Okay, there it is. Look at the hair. Like, you can see the individual strands of hair. Like, that's
really well
the worst
done.
part about it, is you just see the individual ones.
I paid a lot of money for that.
You paid money for that?
Yeah, half of it was yours. You paid for half of that.
Oh my god. Okay, you know what? All right, okay. It is what it is. I could have got that one for free. All right, it got ripped off.
Oh yeah, but yeah, you guys can check that out. They're gonna be they're gonna be going up right after. Once again, I do want to say big shout out to Daily Dose of Asmongold for getting us those VODs so quickly. We wouldn't be able to do it without him. Now I kind of have the thumbnails in order. So I do want to also take a moment to say our guest for next week is not locked in. I haven't even messaged him yet, but we're going to try to get Nobble if he's able to do it. If he's not, we're going to try to get him whenever he can. So we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about lore. But Quin, we wanted to have you on for a very long time. It's great to have you back on the show. I think your perspective on the game, not to like jerk you off too much, but it's always really good to have somebody who actually plays other games on the show as well and can kind of look at things objectively, and you don't just need to like only give WoW big hugs.
I feel like Torghast is like the perfect middle ground for you, right? I mean, you've done so much ARPG type stuff, and then like now you have WoW. It's in WoW. Like that's your fucking thing, dude.
I want it to succeed so badly as well.
Yeah.
Like leaderboards, leaderboards.
It will.
The WoW boys, the WoW devs, leaderboards, do it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. It was good, and it's weird seeing like I've gone from being like just disagreeing with the complete majority of things that you're saying, Asmongold, you know, the complete majority.
Yeah.
To like actually like I'm almost like agreeing with almost everything, but like just a couple small things, which is like I don't know what's happened. Maybe I'm cooked, and you're actually you're like the seer, like the fucking what's the what do you call it? You can look into the future.
Nostradamus.
And I just hope. Yeah, I hope you're wrong though, and I hope they make
with the covenants. Yeah, I'm actually really excited about Shadowlands. I'm so much more excited about Shadowlands. I'm more excited about Shadowlands than I was for Legion because I was coming out a lot, right? But like also, I mean, like I'm more excited about Shadowlands and Legion than BFA, especially. Like I'm really hyped up for this expansion. I'm glad they're trying new things, even if I disagree with the methodology. I'm really glad they're trying new things.
All right. I'll catch you guys up.
Yep. I'll see you later.
Fingers crossed on this expansion, boys.
Yep.
Yeah, and everybody follow Quin on Twitter
and
be sure to watch his stream literally every day. I watch his stream all day long.
Thanks.
Quin, what times do you?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Just whenever. I'm just on randomly.
Link Quin's Twitch and chat. Link his Twitter and chat. Let's go.
I'm leaving.
Link his Twitch. He left. So I can just show you. I can show you what fuck you fucking wanker! Pussy in my ass! Pussy in my ass!
Wow, Quin came back. That's crazy. Look at that.
Yeah, guys. Seriously, if you want more moments like that, definitely watch. Definitely watch him. But yeah, I'll hop out of the call. I'll see you guys in the after show.
Go ahead. Yeah. All right, I'll wrap everything up on my stream too. I'll talk to you, man.
What?